Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. In this tutorial, we're going to be creating this amazing web page in Figma. Here we have a lot of things that you're going to be learning in this tutorial, like creating this drop down here, and then when we leave, it's going to disappear. And then we have customized font. I'm going to show you how you can download this font and install it in your computer, then use it in Figma. We have some micro interactions that are going on here. And we also have other section of this website. If you look at this website, everything here is designed and arranged perfectly. If you look at the spacing between our text here, they are also perfect. I'm going to show you how you can create this one step at a time. After watching this video, you will get a lot of insight that you can use in your next project. So if you're new to my channel, please kindly hit the subscribe button. For this tutorial, we're going to be needing some resources file, which I'll be putting the link in the description below. The first one will be the link to the custom font we are going to be using. And then the next one will be the link to our Figma community file where you can grab all the images that we're using. And then the last one will be the link to SuperHub official website where we can grab the text and then use it in our design. Without wasting much of your time, let's jump into it. To get started, we need two files. The first is the resources, and then the second one is the font, which is this font I'm highlighting over. Now, once you open the first link in the description below, we're going to click on Open in Figma. Once you click this, it will open this and then redirect back to your Figma application. This is going to try to open this file. And once it is fully open, we have two pages here. One is the resources page, which has all the images and resources we're going to be using. So the first thing here is to grab this template here, Ctrl X, and then bring it to page 1. Let's paste this here. I'm going to show you how I was able to get all these resources from the web page. Now let's go back to our browser, and on this website here, you see we have the logo and icons and also images. Let's say I want to grab this icon here. Right click on the icon, make sure you're pointing to that, then we can click on inspect. Once you click on the inspect, we're going to get an SVG here. So just close that SVG and then right click, then copy element. Once I copy this, I'll go back to my Figma file and then let's go to page 1. Since we have less items, I'll zoom in and then try to paste that item I copied. You see we have this here in our browser, in our Figma file from our browser. If we come back here, let's say I want to copy an image, this image here. I'm just going to right click and then open image in a new tab. So this is going to open the image here, and then I just can copy this here, copy image and paste that. But there is a more advanced way, and then it will require you to have a knowledge about the web. Let's just right click and then inspect. I can click on the sources here. This is going to take me to the resources file on their web page. So you see I can now toggle between different images. I can close here and then open this. You see I have resources. So different website might have different structure for this. And you see all the assets of this website can be accessed directly from this. And then you can open this and then open a new tab is going to just open that image, and you can right click, copy that image and then paste it in Figma. So this is just a glimpse, and then it's a very tedious task. That is why I decided to add everything, and then we can just move to the important part. So if you like tutorials like this and you're not subscribed to this channel, please kindly hit the subscribe buttons. It really helps the channel to grow. Now let's install the font we want to use, which is this font. This is a customized font and we don't have that available in Figma. So click on the second link in the description below, and then we want to download this file. So click on the download button and this will be downloaded to your computer. I've downloaded this already. So regardless of which operating system you're working with, being it MacBook or Windows, you can just double click to open this. Once this is open, your computer tries to load this. Because I have this installed, it's going to tell me to replace whatever I'm having. So I can click on the replace. So yours will be installed. So once you click on replace, let me just close this here it's going to try to replace whichever icon I have here. So now these are the fonts that I installed in my computer. I'm on Mac, so we can close this, and then you can follow the prompt for Windows and then install that font. So let's go back to our Figma file. I'm going to first of all do away with this because we have that already. Select this and then delete the whole of this. So now let's create a frame for our project. I'm going to use the MacBook 14-inch for this project, and I'm going to set the height to 6,500. So I don't have an idea of the exact height, but I just need something big enough. Now let's add our navbar. To do that, I'm going to use a frame and drag this here and then drop this here. So this, I'm going to make the height 75 here, and then let's make sure it's extending to the end here. And then I'll just attach this to the ending here. And then the next thing is to now add grid. Select your whole frame and then click on the layout grid. Now select the settings here, go to grids, we want columns. So for these columns, I'm going to set this to 12 columns. Now for the margins, I'm going to use 120. For the gutters, I'll stick to 20. Now we can close this. So here we cannot design with this on our screen. It's going to be a lot of distraction. So the next thing to do is to turn on our rulers. So select the Figma icon here. We have a drop down. Now we can go over to view and click on rulers if it is not checked. But if it is checked, you can just exit this screen. So now mine is already checked. So I can close this by selecting outside. So we are going to have this here. So I'm going to zoom in. Now, once you're over this, click and then drag this over here. Now I just need to make sure that this red line is starting here. And then I'm going to zoom out and then do the same thing here. Notice how I zoom in and zoom out. If I'm zooming in, I press the command on my keyboard. On Windows, you press Control and then use your mouse wheel, and then it's going to zoom in and out. So I'm going to drag this to this point here. Once we are okay with that, we can select this MacBook 14-inch and then hide this. Please do not delete this. Just hide that from your screen. On a very good day, we're supposed to do that for our navbar, but because we are already having a height that we need to center this to, so no need. So let's set this to 75 or 72. I think I tried setting that to 75 earlier, so I'll set that to 72. Now, let's learn how to use the resources in these files. Everything you see here was gotten from the website from that process I showed you earlier. So here we have icons and logos. Once I click this, you see we have this. I just arranged them inside sections. So now we have our logo. So I'm going to select the entire logo here, double click on the frame and change this to logo -1. Once I have this, I need to convert this logo to a component. To do that, I'm going to select the logo and then click on the component icon. Once we have this, we can go back to our design here. That's page 1. Here, we can now add our logo. To do that, I'm going to select the assets file here. And then inside, you see, for icons and logo, we have one component. So that's the only thing we are seeing at the moment. So I'm going to drag this and then drop this inside this place. But yay, this looks too big. So let's lock this and change this to 30. And I have my logo, looks decent. So now we can select this, try to align this to center. Now it's aligned within this frame. So let's go back to our layer and then rename this frame to our navbar here. Once this is renamed, the next thing we can do is to work on the links. So let's go back to this page here. You see we have the links. Let's look at the behaviors. Once you hover over this, it automatically changes to black, and then the changes, it's just instance. Then here we have a drop down. Don't worry about this. We're going to create everything you're seeing here. Let's go back to our design. Now let's add a text here. So this is going to be demo. And for the demo, I'm going to set this to 14. Zoom in again, and then we are going to be using inter because the font they are using here is inter variable. So we have inter. Now let's set this to semi-bold here. Once this is set to semi-bold, the next trick is to make sure that this is an auto layout. So press Shift A to put this in an auto layout. Once we have this, this is fine, and then we can just play with the pattern at the top and bottom. Let's say we want 6 here, and then left and right we want just 12. Now let's just rename this to link, single link, like this. That looks fine. Then we can now convert this to a component. To do that, you have to make sure you're selecting the single link and then convert this to a component. Once this is converted, it's fine. We can now create a variant for this. But before we continue, let's just add some colors to these art designs. Here we need a default color. You see they are a bit gray here, so we can call that secondary. So now I have the screen here, but then if I zoom in, it's just going to distort the color. So I'm just going to pick the darkest color here. Let's say this one here. So now to do that, I will create a rectangle here, press I on the keyboard, zoom in, and then select any of this. So once we have this color, which is going to be our secondary color, to add that to our design, make sure you're selecting this rectangle. Now we have this 4 dot here, click on this, and then we have the plus sign here. Once you click on that, it's going to prompt the screen and then ask you to enter the color name. So this is going to be my secondary color. Now I can click on create color. So at this point here, for our links, we can come back here and then set the color to this. So make sure you double click and you're selecting the text, and where we have the white, we're going to change that to secondary. And we can now create a variant for this. Once the user hover over this, we want a dark color. So now click on the plus sign to create a variant for this. So now here, I'm just going to change that to hover. So you see we have this. So now this property one, you can just change that to state. So state, we have hover. So this should be the default state when the item is not hovered. But once the user hover over this, we get a black color. So to achieve that, we have a dark color here. So now I'm just going to drag this tiny rectangle here. Let me zoom in so we can see the one I initially used. It's actually not that useful. So I can select this, press I on my keyboard, and then select this dark color. You notice that this is not a pure black color. So now the next thing is to click on this 4 dots here, and then we repeat the same process. Click on this fourth plus sign here, and then let's make this dark, and we can create this. Then I can close this again. So we have our primary color here. I can just select this, press I, do the same thing, and then let's click on the 4 dots here again. This time we repeat the same process, and this is going to be our primary color, so we can create the style here. So now I can close this. You see we have 3 colors here. Now let's select this item, double click to select the text, and we can go in here from secondary. We want to change that to dark. So now let's quickly do the prototype. The user hover over this state, we get to this state. Now click on prototype and then just select this item and drag it to point to this next item. So this time is going to be while the user is hovering. That's when we want these changes to happen. So now here it's going to be instant, no animation. So we can close this. So go back to design. One last thing before we start using the links is that let's add some properties to this. Double click on the demo here. Now select this multi-matching layer. So once you select this, it's going to select the matching layer here. So we just want to add a property to this. Scroll down where you have the text. I have demo here. Click on this arrow sign. This is going to be title. So now when we click on the asset file and we drag this demo here, and then let's duplicate this by pressing Ctrl D, drag this here. Let's say we have change log. I think I can remember this. You see we have this, and then it's properly aligned. Ctrl D here, and then I think I'm just doing that too much. So let's go back here. We have change log, we have pricing, blog, and login. So this is going to be pricing, blog. I think I added an extra space in here. Let me just delete that. Pricing, then select this, Ctrl D, drag that, and then I'll just do Control D here. So pricing here, I'll just make that login. Here I can make that blog like this. So we have 1 2 3 4 5. Then we have another type of link here, which is the drop down 1 2 3 4 5 6 here. So I think this is missing. So we need this type of link where the user hover and then we get a drop down. So now let's hover over this drop down menu here and then right click, then inspect this because I don't have that icon. Now you see I have an SVG here. So select this, copy attributes. So I'm going to copy this element here. Once you copy, we can go back to our Figma file here. And then let's go back to our layers, then resources. Where I have this icons, I can just Control V to paste whatever I copied there. So now I have this here, this drop down. So I'll just change this to arrow here. And let's convert this to a component. To do that, you just have to click on this. So we have arrow here. Now I'm going to come back to this design, layers, go back to pages. So we need another type of link item. So now just duplicate this by pressing Control D. So now we have this. So instead of single menu, so this, I'm just going to set this to mega link here. So what I'm going to add here is the item. So I'll select this where we have icons, and let me close this here, resources, where we have icons and resources here, icons and logos. I'm going to click this. So we have our arrow. So I'm going to drag this arrow and then drop it somewhere here. This is an auto layout field. So let's select this mega menu and then drag this so that it's going to contain this. So now I'll do the same for this item here. I'll click on this, drag this, and then drop this in here. So now let's look at the behavior here. Close this. If you hover over this here, I think the color changed to this, and then we have our drop down, but this becomes darker. So here on this, we're going to keep this, but then this is going to be, I think, let's make that the same with this. Let's say for the selection color, please use the selection color for this. Let's change that to this secondary, something like this, though it might not, yes, something like that should do. Then for this item here, instead of having this color, which is our dark, once you're selecting this, let's change the dark to primary, and then this drop down here, I think we can change that to dark instead of this pure black here. So select this 4 dots and then change that to black. Let's see if there's any effect here. Yes, it's changing. So now we have this section here. So all the properties that we have, if I select this mega link, we will see we have the property, that's the title already here. Now, once the user open this, okay, there's nothing, no movement for this. So we can just go to our assets here in our page 1, where we have the mega link. We can just drag this and then drop this in here. So this is going to be features. So now you notice that like the spacing between these two items is too much compared to what we are having here. Now we can select these 2 items and then we want to just change everything here. So the spacing between them, I'm just going to drop that, but let's keep that to 0 because the text also have its own property. So that's why we cannot get that. You see, we have the text here. So, and this also have its own property. So let's keep that to 0. So the next thing here is to try to resize this. But to resize this, I will just go back to layers, then I will go to resources, and from here I can just lock this and then resize this here to, let's say, 16. So if we go back here, you see this is going to resize automatically because that's the parent that is controlling this item here. So now we can now select all the items here and then group them. But you notice we have this tiny thing here before the login. So we can also right click and then copy this item here. So we can inspect this and you're going to get the SVG. Right click and then let's copy this element. Go back to resources where we have this. I'm just going to paste this here. Now we have this. So for the prototype for this, please let's go back here and then make sure I'll just rename this to star. and then I'll just do this. So for that micro interaction here, we cannot achieve this with Figma because Figma will not be able to dictate if the item has been rotated. So now I would just come back in here and then click on the assets where we have our icons here. Where we have the icons and pages. I can just drag this here, and then by default it is secondary. So this is going to be secondary. So for the selection color, I'm just going to change that to secondary. Then we can convert this to a component and then add a plus sign. So when the user hover over this, so I'm going to change this to hover. When the user hover over this, we want to change the color from secondary to primary. So now we can just do the prototype quickly and then drag and drop this. This is going to be while hovering, and then it should be instance no animation. So we can close this. If you want to make that a little bit, you want to animate this, you can just increase the size of the second one. But for now, we are not interested in that. So I'm just going to not animate this. So here, let's click back on design, and then we have this. So for this, we have our login and then the button here. So let's quickly create this button. But you notice this button have an hover effect here. So let's go back and then add. Let me copy whatever it's here. So right click. Once you right click, it's just going to select this text here. We can just copy the text. So now I will click on the text here, select this section, and then paste this. So this comes with an underline. So I'm going to select these 3 dots here and to make sure that this is not underlined. So here I'm going to make sure that, okay, it's coming with the link. So it tries to open this page for me. So now make sure you're selecting this item, and then let's detach this here. So now I'll just delete whatever is there, and then it is no longer a link. So once we have this, let's change the size here to 16 because I really want this to be big. So here semi-bold is still fine. So Shift A, let's see if it's actually semi-bold here. So it's almost the same thing with whatever we are having here, semi-bold. So now let's add a plus sign for the fill. But since we have our color defined, let's use the 4 dots here and then add the primary color. Now this is coming up nicely. Let's change this to 12 here, but you can add more than that. So I think I wish to add more than that here, and then for the height here, I just make this 12. So we can add the corner radius. Here I think we are using just something small here. So let's see if 4 works. If 4 doesn't, then we can go 8. So 8 should be the perfect fit for that. So we have our button, but we need to create the hover states. So I'm going to double click here and say button primary like this. So for this, I'm just going to convert this to a component, then add a variant. So let's go back to our resources icon. Here we're going to see states, something I created, something relating to hover states. Hover states, so I'm going to zoom in here. So I have this hover state, so I'm just going to select this first item here, copy this, and then let's select the 2 items, item 1 and 2, copy that, and let's bring that somewhere here. I'm just going to paste that here. After pasting this here, you see on this hover state, we have this border around this item. But a good way to maintain that is for the first item, let's select these 2 items. So select the first one, then use the matching layers. Let's scroll down to where we're having stroke. So plus sign to add a stroke. This time, let's make the stroke 2. And then the color of the stroke here, let's make sure that this is matching. Let me zoom in and see. Okay, good, it's matching. So let's make sure that the first color for this stroke here, it's primary. So that means by default it's primary. So I'm going to select this item here, and we want to use this color here for our second stroke. So since I don't think we're going to reuse this color, so now select the second button here where we have the stroke here, detach this. Then select this item, press I, and let's come in, zoom in, and let's pick this color here. So on this item, you see we have this color here. So we can as well just try to reduce this because, okay, if it's on a white background, it's not going to be obvious. So let's just leave that. Let's go back to prototype and then select this item. From this here, we can now have this while hovering. We just want to get to this state here. So now it's just going to be instant. Let's come back in here, go to assets, and then we are going to have buttons. So under page 1, we should have buttons. So let's drag and drop this here. So let's look at the height here. It's something I did not check while designing this. So let's select this here. The height by default, I would love this to be 48. So, but I don't think I can get that. So let's try something 47. It's manageable. Yes, 47, it's close. So now we need the star here as well. I'm just going to select this here, drag this, and then drop this here. I think the star is between the block and then the login. So this login and then sign up, we're going to group them together. So the login and then sign up, let me just drag this somewhere here. So login, drag this here. We're going to select this two and then Shift A to group these items together. So I'm going to drop this here. After that, we have this item here. I'll drop this here. So let's group these items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Shift A to group them. We're using the auto layout. So after having this, I'll just drag this close to this item, and then we can select, this should be an item on its own here. So now we have item 1, item 2, and then item 3. Shift A to put them in an auto layout, and we make sure that this is aligned to center. So now we have our design. Zoom in and make sure this is sitting perfectly on this red line, and then this other one is also sitting perfectly here. So now we are done with the menu. So now we have our link here. So let's just do something quickly. Let's add a stroke to this, but then for this stroke, I'm just going to click the plus sign here. We just want this stroke underneath this. So select this, and then we just want this at the bottom. So we can go secondary for this, but let's apply the secondary and see how it's going to look. Secondary, that's still too much, so select this and let's detach the secondary. So now we can just reduce the opacity of this to, let's say 20, and see if that looks great. Yeah, still too much here, so let's reduce this to, let's say 10. Looks good. So it looks great. On a very good day, I would just take my time and then use a shadow to do this, but then this is also good. So now let's add the text here. That's, I'm just going to grab this text here, Ctrl C, and then let's bring it back to this section here. So I'm going to paste this here, and then this color is going to be our primary color. So I'm going to set that to primary, and then the size of this we can use 16. So just the way we can create colors, we can as well create styles for our designs. So now let's say I want to use or save this style. I can just come in here, click on the plus sign here, and then add the plus sign for this here. So let's say this, I can set that to header 3 or header 4. So heading 4. So I can create this. So I can reuse this style 16 and then whichever settings we are having here. So now the next one is to add this particular text. So I'll grab this and then select my text here, and then I'll just click on this to just create a text area. Then I can paste this. After pasting this here, this is going to apply the style we created for this. So now select this, and then let's detach this instance here. So click on the icon. I'm going to undo that. Let's click on this icon to detach the properties. Now select this, and then we have our text here. Now this is going to be 48, and then the font family here is going to be Brickle, the one we just installed, 24 pixels here. So once we select this, we just need to arrange this to look like this. So now I'm just going to come in here, make sure we're changing the alignment to center, and then we make sure the collect is starting on the same line with this. Now we have this our design here. So now let's grab this other text here, and then I'll copy this, and let's go back to the side, and I'm going to paste that in here. So we can just create, I think the best way to add this type of text is to just create a text field here like this, and then paste this inside. So but for this, we're going to change that back to 16, and then we're sticking with the inter here. So I'll add the inter. So you can, if you have an excess here, just double click here and then we can have this design. So here, make sure we're changing this to medium. And then if we come back here, you notice that we have a lot of space in here. So let's fix that here. I think instead of medium, we can just go regular. So we have 3 lines, and then we can just adjust this to just create that 3rd line. I'll just drag this a little here till this roadmap drops. So the secret of creating awesome design is having spacing in between your text. So now let's customize this. Select this, and then we're going to play with the text height. So to do that, where we are having auto here, or make sure you're selecting here regardless, we're going to start adding percentage. I'm going to start with 20, and then you see, the moment you keep adding this, we're going to keep having space in between this text. So now here you see there's a very good spacing in between each of this text. So let's say we're keeping 24 here. Okay, that looks too small, so let's go as far as 26, 27, 28. So now we have this. So here the text font here, it's a little bit blur, so let's try our dark. If it doesn't work, then we have to create a secondary color for that. So I think this looks okay, but let's see how the secondary might be too much here, and then here this is a little bit darker, so let's stick to this here, but we can introduce other colors. So now that we have this, let's select the 3 items here and then press Shift A to align them properly, and then we can just adjust the spacing between them here. So we can go 28 for this. So the next thing is to create the buttons we are having, and then let's select this and align that to center first. So let's create these buttons. So we have button 1, 2, these are just 3 different types of button here. So to achieve this, we already have a button here. So what I'm going to do is to select this button, that's this component here, and then press Ctrl D to duplicate. On a very good day, we can just change the color of this button, but then I just want to create another component set for that. So here, instead of BTN primary, we are just going to name this BTN dark. After having this, we can now select this item here, scroll down to where we are having our primary color. So now select this, and then we're going to change that to dark. Then we have our border around this. I'm also going to change the stroke around that. I'll set that to dark as well. Then once the user hover over this, we still want to maintain the dark color here. So the background is still going to be dark, but the stroke now we can select this, press I, and from this I'll zoom in and then select this item here. So now most of the settings we've done will automatically be added to our design. So as time goes on, we might check if this stroke that we're applying here is too much, but for now we can now add our dark button to our design. Here I'll come in and then go to assets. This time we're looking for page 1. So we have our button. I'm going to drag this and then drop this here. So let's go back and then get the exact text, which is this, and then we have this other type of button here. So now if I hover over this, and then we have a gray color, and then we have this. So now we can just come in here and then also duplicate this, Ctrl D. So this is going to be BTN dark outline like this. So for this, we don't need a background for this. So now what I'm going to do here is, where I have the dark here, I'm just going to add the minus. So for the stroke size, I will reduce that to 1. And then we are having this. So instead of this, let's try for the stroke. Instead of that, we can use the secondary. So here for the stroke selection, let's use secondary here. Then here we can select this as well, minus the dark here. And then for the stroke, we can as well just add the dark color we are having here. and then let's reduce this to 1. So now that we have this, let's just try to add that here and see if there's any changes we need to make. So here we have BTN dark outline. I can just drag this and drop this here. So now we need to change the text color for this. So let's come back in here, and where we have the text here, so double click, instead of white, we can change that to dark. So, but for this as well, we need to change that to dark as well. So now that we have this, we can come back in here and we see we have our buttons here. And if this button is too small, you can, the good thing about this is that you can always increase the size of the button. So I'll just adjust this up, and then it's not going to affect the parent. So now I'm just going to come in here. Let's check the size that we have here. I'm going to make this 180 here, and then here we can go as far as 58. So now the same thing goes for this. We can come in here, convert this to 180, and then let me just adjust this so that we can just distort that. 180, and then this is going to be 58. So once we have this, you notice that we have some signs here. So from our buttons, we can add some properties, especially to the dark button. If you scroll down here, you see the dark button has this property, and then here we also have another property here, that's this arrow. If I scroll down, you see we also have that here. So to achieve this, we're not going to create a new button, rather we are going to add more properties to our button. So let's just grab the text that is here, right click on this, and then copy this text. Come back, select this design, and then where we have this, let me select this back, and then scroll down here. We need to change the text here, but I think this is not having the property where we can just easily change the text. So what I want us to do here is to come back to where we have this outline, double click here, and then select the matching layers, and let's add a property to this, which is going to be title. So once we create this, and then I select this button here, and then I should be able to just change this text here. Now we have this. Then let's add more property to this dark button here. So now, since this is an auto layout, let's go back to our layers here, and then resources. So now what we need here, we need 2 icons here. So I'm going to icons and logos. So now let me zoom out so that I'll see which part I'm selecting. So the first item here, I think it's not this one. Let's check this. This is the first item. So I will just rename this to star and plus. That's the first item. So this one, I will just say chevron. Chevron right. So these are the 2 icons we need for our button. So make sure we're converting this to a component, and I'm going to select the chevron right and also convert that to a component. Now let's go back to page 1. Where we have this, I'm going to go to assets, and then I'm going to close page 1. Then in the resources page, we need the icons here. So now the first item we want to use here is the star. Okay, I just use start here. It's supposed to be star. So we can drag that and then drop it somewhere here. So here, let me just adjust this properly so that we can have enough space to accommodate the new designs here. So once I have this star here, I think I'm just going to select this again. Okay, let me just drag this here again as well. Drag it and then drop it in the second one here. So we have the 2 stars here, so we can select matching layers and change the colors. So this is a selection color. Let's change that to white. Okay, we've not created any white color, so I can just add a plus sign here and say I want a white color here, and then we can just change that to white. So close this, and then we can create this variable and then apply that there immediately. Now we need to add the arrow here. To do that, I can come here and then drag this arrow in here. So I'm going to do the same thing here, drag it and then drop it inside this section here. So now once I select this arrow here, I'll do the matching layers here and then add the selection color. I'll change that to white. So now that we have this, we need to create this as a property, because let's go back to our design here. Here we have this, and then on the next button here, we only have this. So we want this to be reusable. So now to create these properties, we can actually just select this here and then make sure we're selecting matching layers. Then go to layers where we are having these layers here. We want to create a visibility for this. So now click on this and then it's going to be show, let's say star icon, show star icon here. So by default, we can always set this to true. So I can create this property. So the same thing, I'll select this, then the matching layer here. Then let's go down here where we have layer. Then we're going to do the same thing. So this is going to be create property. This one is going to be show arrow here. So by default, let's say this is false. We don't want this to be visible. So the moment we create this, automatically that is going to disappear from our design. So because this is auto layout, it's still going to maintain that. So if I come in here, we have our properties. So for the text, please let's double click here and then select matching layers, and let's create a title for this so that we can easily edit our text. Now that we have this, let's try to now turn on the property. By default, you see we already have this property here. So if I come back here and then let's go back to the top, there's a little bit more space in here than what we are having here. So we can go back to the parent button. That's the dark one. I think every one of this button. Let me select this and then I'll just select matching layers here. So for this, we can go, let's say 20 for the padding. And then let's see how it looks here. Now we have a better spacing, but as well, let's say we have 24 here. So now let me check this here and see. We have 24. Okay, that's great. If I select this, I have 24. That's left and right. We also have that. So this looks great now. So now that we have these two buttons, the next thing is to group them together. So now I'm going to hold shift and then select these two buttons, shift A, and then we're going to group this item here. So we can just easily align this item and then we have our design. So now let's add this color here before we create this component that we are having here. To do that, we have the images in the layers. Let's go to resources. Now we want to look for this image. So this is going to be under our hero section. So we have this image 4. So what we're going to do, let's just convert this to a component. So I'll go back to layers and then select page 1. So now we can go to assets, and then this time we're looking for the hero section here. So let's drag this and drop it here. Yes, that looks too big, but we can always adjust the size. So come to this end here, make sure you're holding Alt and Shift. So on MacBook should be Option and Shift. Then let's adjust this towards the center. So I'm just going to stop here, try to align that there before we do any adjustment. So I'll do the same here, hold Alt and Shift, try to adjust this. Let's bring that here. I'm just going to make sure that this is touching this. So I'll just drag that here and then make sure that this also is touching this extreme here. So now that we have this section, we can now add 1 or 2 designs here. So coming back here, you see we have this portion. So we can go back to our design, our layers, sorry, then select resources. Where we have this, you see we're going to have this design here, which is the feedback portal. So please, we also we're going to convert this to a component. So I'll select this. So this is now image 6 and it has been converted to a component. Now let's go back to assets, then drag this item and then drop it here. So this is as well big, so we can just select this, hold Alt and Shift, MacBook Option and Shift. Let's adjust this here. drag this here. Let's see. Okay, it's filling almost everywhere, so we need to increase the size of this. Come back in here, and I'm holding Alt and Shift, drag this, and then yep, this looks okay. So I'm just going to drop that here. So all these items we're having, we're going to wrap the whole of this here in a frame. But for us to do that, let's just adjust this properly so that this color will just come a little bit close to this. So now I'm going to select this item 1, hold Shift, select this other one, and then push this a little bit here. But you notice that is going to affect this my design here. So now if I push this a little, we might have this. So what you're going to do is right click and then send to back here. So now this is behind this. So if I like, I can push this up a little here, and that's still fine. All we need to do is to create a component with all those images here. Now after adding this, we're left with this section of the design. And you see, this is a bit, this is responsive. If we hover over this, there's some micro interaction here. So as well as this, so loved by 200 customers. So, but for the design, this is what they did here. They had images stacked together, but we're going to recreate this from scratch. So here you see they have these images stacked, but since we have this tiny images here, we can just recreate this with Figma. So let's come back in here. Let's select this first. I'll make sure that this is a component. I'll select this other one, make sure that this is a component. I'll do the same thing for this. But for these items here, I don't want to mistake this. So now we can select item 1, 2, 3. So please, this is where I'm having these items selected. I just have them here. So now while you're here, you have to be in this section, right click, and then let's rename this. So here I'm just going to say profile image. Then I want profile image 1, 2, 3, 4 respectively. So I'm going to add a $sign and then N here. So you see we have this. If you do that N with a capital letter, it's going to reverse that. So we're sticking with the lowercase. So I'm going to rename this items here. So I believe we have other images here that we can use. That's this, and then these are the ones here. You can select them as well here, and then for these items we can rename them here as well. Rename. So we can say profile v2, that's version 2, and I will just say N here. So you see we have everything here named from 1 to 7. So this is easier to work with. Okay, now that we've renamed all these images, so I'm just going to select at least, let's say 6 of this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here, Ctrl C, and then I'll bring them in here. So it doesn't matter, but then we can come back here, and then I'm going to paste the 6 images here. And then while pasting these 6 images here, let me undo that because I want them selected. So I'm going to drag this somewhere here. So let's just quickly change the height and width of this. So here I'll just change that to 80 each, and then we can just change the border radius here to 40 to get this rounded images here. So now let me count how many are we having here. We're having 3, and then so we just need 5 of these images. So I'm just going to take out one of this. So here I can select this, and then let's take out this. So we can select all of these images at once and Shift A to put them in an auto layout. So don't worry about that. I will just do this here. So now let's just drag this here to make sure that they are together. So if you're having the same issue, we just need to drag this. But if you notice, the image they are lying on top of each other. So we just need to use a minus sign here. So I can go -20. Let's see how it looks. You see, we are stacking this on top of each other. So now let's adjust this here. If you're having an excess spacing, we can adjust this here to this. So now there are times, so let's select these images first, then I'll show you something. Select this, we can add a stroke to this. So a plus sign, then a stroke of, let's say 2 should do, and then we can change the color of this to white here. So you see we have that design here. So we can even add more strokes to this. So, but there are times whereby this might not stack the way you want them to be. So I will have to select this again. Let's select the auto layout here. That's this frame. And then you can just check for the settings here. Now you see last on top. So here, if you do first on top, it's just going to change this direction here. But I believe they are using the last on top here. So if we come back here, let's see, zoom in. So they are using the last on top. So for other situations, you can just come in here, play with this, and then change this design here. The same thing with the stroke here. We can include the stroke, or we can just exclude the stroke in the calculation for the height and weight here. So we can close this, and then we have the first portion. So if I come back in here, I'm just going to grab the stars here. I think this whole stars we are having is just one line. So we can right click and then inspect image, or we can just copy this image. So if I click on inspect here, it's just going to open this SVG. I think this should be the best here. So now for the SVG, I'm going to right click and then copy element. Once we copy that, I can come back to my Figma file and then paste this here. So now we can drag this somewhere here, and you see we have this stars here, and then they are all in one frame. So let's grab the text. So I'm going to close this section, and then let's grab this text here, loved by 2000 or 200 plus. So select this, and then we can paste this here. So we just need to change some of the things here. Medium, let's see if that is medium. Nah, it's not medium, so we can just go regular. And the thing in here is, if you check, this is not starting on the same line with the stars. So if we put this two in an auto layout, which we are going to do, hold shift and then shift A to put them in an auto layout. So now after adding this, we have this items here. I can now drag this somewhere close to this. So we have item 1 here and item 2. So I can select these two items, press shift A to put them in an auto layout. So once this is inside an auto layout, I can just say we have customers here. That's the name of this component. So we can convert this to a component. I'm going to click on this here. This has been converted, then a plus sign to create a variant. So this is going to be hover state here. So I'll just, instead of property 1, I'll say this is the state. So this is the default state, and then this is the hover state. So if we hover over this, we get this increases a little, but then the spacing here, it's not touched. So we have to do some little work here. So I'm going to select these items individually. So double click when you select the first one, second one, third one, fourth one, and then the fifth one here. So what we want to do here, we want to increase the height and then the width a little. So now here we can go, let's say 84 here for this. And then we have the design here. It has increased a little. So we can now select this item, go to prototype, and then when you hover over this, we should get this here. So now this is going to be while hovering. And then for this, we're going to use the smart animate. And then, yeah, that's okay. We don't need to add much settings for this. So my next concern is this here. So let's go back to design. First, select this. I'm just going to increase this a little here. So if we select these two items, no, I'll select this and then hold shift to select this. The spacing between them here, I think I just want to increase this to, let's say, as far as 38. Let's see how that looks. Okay, this looks a little bit better, because if we hover over this, we might just get some little deficiency. That's why I'm adding that space. So if we come back here, we can now select the assets here, and then let's look for page 1, and then our customers, we can drag them and then just drop this here. I think my design looks a little bit too big compared to what we are having here. So we might as well just adjust some of the sizes, and even the text here, it's supposed to be dark. So now let's go back in here, and then we're just going to select this here. Make sure we're selecting this text here. And then we can use the matching layers and make sure we're applying the dark color here. So that's one problem solved. So for these images, I'll select individually, and then let's go to somewhere 60, and then we might have to do some adjustment. 60. So now here I'm going to double click, select this individually again. Let's go 64. Okay, so now if we select this and then this, the spacing between them, we need to work on that. So 24, I think that's still too big. Let's go 16 and see. So let me be sure of this. So let's try 0. Okay, since we have this and then we're having 0, let's look at the size of this text here and then try to push this. Okay, I know where the problem is coming from. So I'm going to select this inner items, these 2 items. So please, we need to do this here like this, and then we can select these 2 items. Sorry, item 1 and item 2. Then we can add the spacing we need, so I can still maintain that 24. And we have this. So come back here. I'll just adjust this a little. So if we come in here, we should have this. So let me check the size of this. Is this respond to what we have earlier? So now let me just drag another one here and drop it and see the difference. Okay, I think is there any more changes? Okay, that's the same. It's the same size. So if we select individually, you see we have fixed size for this. So it's the same thing. The change has been affected here. So now that we have this, we can then adjust this somewhere here. So let's just look at this one last time so that we can just adjust this properly and then make it look the same way we have with whatever we're having here. So we just need to increase this a little bit here because we are having more spacing here. So I can just increase this a little here. So now select this, center this item, and then we have item 1, 2, and then 3. So these 2 items, let's group them together. We have this here, 1, 2, 3. So now I'm going to select item 1, select this other one, and select this Shift A to group them together. So 32 is fine by me. So now that we are done with the hero section, all we need to do is to just hover over these items here. Once you highlight over them, just right click and then frame selection. Once you frame that, I'm going back to layers. You see we have the frame here. So I'll just rename this to hero. Right now, let's open this in a prototype mode so that we can see all the animations and the micro interactions we've created so far. Go to prototype here. I'm going to choose the prototype settings and I have this MacBook. Then let's click on this presentation layer. Okay, so far this is what we've created. If I hover over this, you see we have that animation here. If I over this as well, you see we have that the same thing with this. And then for our button, you see we have this, but then I don't like the movement here. So we can just adjust that and then make it fixed or make that instance instead of animated because of the movement here. So if we come in here, we can just try to adjust the spacing here between them. Let's select this. Okay, if I select this item here and then this other one here, let's see what's the difference. So I think let's just manage this toward the ending. We can just come back and then adjust most of this here. If I scroll down, you see we have this nice looking home page. So I'm going to select this and then let's start the second section here, which is this. So now I think I don't have to wait. I can just click a frame on the frame icon there and then add a new frame for this. So once I've done this, I can just adjust this here a little. So I have this color here that we want to use. So if we want to add this to our design, we can just add a rectangle, select this, press I, and then pick this. So we can use this and then add a new color. So I'm going to name this primary inverse like this. And then I can now create this variable, close this, and then we can come back in here. We already have the frame, but you can't see that because there's no background color. So now that we have this, all we need to do is to click on the plus sign, but we have our colors here. So I'll just select the primary inverse. So now we have this section here. So after adding this, we need to create this section of the design. I think I almost skipped that. So to achieve this, we can come back in here. We already have the assets here. let's close this, and then where we have the images, let me close this as well. So testimonies and avatar, so we have these three items here. So I can drag this image here, bring that here, and then we need to play with the stroke, or sorry, the border radius or the corner radius for this. So I'm just going to set that to 40. So sorry, I think I can change that from here. Let's go back to layers and then pages. So coming back in here, double click here so that we can select the image here. So now I'm going to open each of this here. I'll do the same thing here. I think I can hold Control this time. If you're on MacBook, you hold Command and select these images inside. Let's change the border radius here to 40, and then we can have this design here. So now we can just go back to page 1, and you see this is already affected here, or it has taken effect here. So we have the luxury, we can lock this here and then try to reduce this to 60 or whatever size we want to use here. After doing this, we need to add the comment from the user. So I'm just going to drag this and then copy this, come back in here, select this text and then paste this here. But yeah, this is just the wrong way to do that. I can select the text here, just drag that somewhere here and then paste this. So easy for me to control. So now this is going to be 14, and then let's just adjust this. This is going to be toward the center, and for the text we can just let's say I'll make this 14, or 12 should do. I think 12 works perfectly. So instead of regular, this is going to be light. And then for the spacing in between the text here, we can just increase that. Instead of auto, we can go, let's say 28 here. Okay, that is too much, so let's reduce that, but we still need spacing in between them here, so that makes it looks a little bit better, or make it look good. So let's take to 18 here. So after having this 18, we need the stars. Okay, we have that already, but I think I will just do the same thing here, or we can come in here, double click here, just copy the star here, and then I can just paste that here. So let me just drag this and then drop this here. So we have the stars here, that's 5-star for this user, and then we have the name of this user here. So I'm going to copy this and then come back in here and paste this here. So let's delete this 5-star, come in here, do this. So this here, let's check which is bigger. I think the text is bigger, so this can go 10 all the way, and then we have 10, and then we have this. So we need to convert this to a component. So firstly, I think the image is big, so I'm just going to change that to, let's say 48 by 48 as the first thing. Then let's select all this frame and then this Shift A to put that in an auto layout, and the spacing between them we can just control that with the numbers here. So after creating this, I will just say this is testimony. That's from a customer. Let's select this here before we move further. Let's change this here to a component so that we can be able to add the properties properly. So now double click here, I have this is going to be name. Then the stars, I think they are all having 5 stars, so no need to worry about that. So for this, I'm going to click this here again. I will create a property. This time it's going to be comment. So then for this here, I'm just going to use this arrow. Once you do that, select this arrow here. This is going to be avatar. So now that we have this, if we come back to assets, and then I will click on page 1, and we should have the testimony here. So when I drop this, I think the only thing missing here is the dark color. So I'm just going to select these 2 items here. That's this 2 text, and make sure I'm changing the color to dark. So once this is dark, you might not see this here. So but select this empty space, and let's change this to gray like this, so that we can just see most of these things here. Just makes that looks better. So we have this here. So let's see we have make it for. So I'll go back to the component here. Let's adjust this. We want this make it for to be on the same line here. So make it for. So I'll just drag this a little for the text. We have the make it for here. So if I come back to this, I should be able to see this make it for here. So now we can have a first item. All I need to do is to duplicate this, Ctrl D, and I have the second item, Ctrl D, and I have the third item. If we grab the comments here, that's Ctrl C to copy, and then we go back here. That's for this. If I paste this, here I have this. The same goes with the name. We can just grab the name here, Ctrl C, and then you see we have name here. So you can just delete that and then replace it here. Please make sure you're removing the 5-star. I'm going to replace that here, and I'll make sure I'm removing the 5-star this time properly. The same thing with the comment here. Not changing the image, so copy that, and then I'll select this, I'll paste this here. Then for the name Emily, I'll just grab that here, and then we can just change the name here. So probably going to come, okay, it's not coming with the 5-star. So this is okay. So we need to change the respective icons for this. So we have this guy here, which is this item. So I can select this image, or we can select this. Let's select this as a whole. Then we can change the property here where we have the avatar. So if I select this, I want to change it to any of this here. So I will select this item here. You see, automatically it's just going to change that. I'll do the same thing for this where we have the avatar. I'm going to select this other one here. So let's see. I think that is great. So I can swap this. This is coming first, and then this is coming second. So we can just select this 3 items, Shift A to put them in an auto layout. So I can just drag this and swap them. So now we have this other section. I just need to center these items here. Regardless, we just want to frame these items. So right click and then frame selection. Once these items are inside a frame, we can click on the layer to make sure that, okay, this is the frame. So I'm going to rename the frame to testimonies here like this. And I can just do this, drag this to the end here. That's just the frame. I'll also drag this here to make sure it's covering a significant portion of this design. So drag this here as well as this here. So now I can select this item inside and then try to align this. So for this, we can select this and also add a field to this. So I'll just add the white field here. So now you see we have the comment section of this website. So we can just quickly move into this other section. So the first thing, I'm just going to drag, copy this text here, your feedback, hub, your way, something there. So I will just select the text here and then just a little space here, and then I can just paste this item here. So now we just need to change the size of this, and I think this looks a little bit bigger than whatever we are having here, or almost the same size. So to do that, I'm just going to change this to 48 here, and the spacing between them here, that's the cost. We can change that to auto for now. Then this should be aligned to the left, and for our font, we are going to use the brick hole here. I think that's bricolate this here, and then we have this. So this color is a bit darker than what we've had earlier, so we're going to change that color. So here I can just zoom in here. We have this color, so select this and then we can just do this here. So this is going to be a purple, so primary dark. So we can just have any other name. I can think of any other name for now, so I'm just going to use primary dark here for this. I can just create this. So now that we've created that color, I'm going to select this item here and then come in to where we are having the fill here. I'm just going to apply the primary dark here. So now I'll just select this primary dark, and we have this color here. So the next thing is to add the text underneath, at the top here. So I'll do the same thing. This is going to be enter, and then we can go back to our design and let's drag this a little, then select this and then paste the text here. So this should be enter, and and then let's reduce the size of this to 24 here. So but now let me just show you a simple trick here. If you notice, there are spaces in between the letters here. So to achieve that in Figma, we are going to use this section here. So we can start playing with this, and then we can achieve almost the same thing with what they are having in here. So but I think this is not supposed to be 24. Let's set that to 18, and then that looks better. So this is going to be dark. I also want to grab this text here by pressing Ctrl C. After highlighting, we can come back in here, and then let's just try to create a text space for this and then paste this here. So this is going to be lighter version of that. So let's set that to 14. So I have to select outside and select the text. This is going to be 14, and then it's not going to be semi bold. I'm going to set that to regular. And the spacing now that's in between the paragraphs, we have to adjust this here. Let's say I'm going 20. Let's see how 20 looks, but I need more spacing. So if you don't add more spacing in between this text, it's just not going to look the same with what we are having here. So here it's ending with leave the future. Okay, that's we're on the same page. And then here, that's the line height. So for this, we don't need any space in between them. Here, that's the space between the letters. So we are just sticking to this here. So this looks good. So now just drag this. Good practice that, you know, all the text should be covered within this area. So now let's add a button, which is this. So right click to copy the text here. I'm going to copy the text, and then let's add our dark button. Go to assets, and then at the top, we can have our dark button here. But remember, we have some property here that we can just easily toggle on and off. So I'm going to turn off the star and then turn on the arrow. So here I can paste whichever text I copied, but make sure we're removing this arrow. I don't know where that is coming from, probably from my clipboard. Press enter, and then we have this explore feedback board. So I think it's the same thing we're having here. So now we can just try to align these items together before we move forward, but this is not aligned properly with this. This is a little bit symmetric, so we can grab these two items. So let's make sure we're changing this to dark instead of black. So dark here to Shift A. We have the first items here, so let's reduce the spacing between them so that it looks exactly. So I'm sticking to 32. The same thing with this. I think there's a decent space between these two items. Shift A. And then we can also adjust the spacing between these two items here. So I think 48 should look good. So here we don't have this aligned. So somewhere here should be very, very good. You see, it should align underneath the portal here. So because of that, let's push this here and see where, okay, this is aligned to the ending here. And I think adding a size to this, it's just going to do more justice to this here. So I think I'm just going to drag this, double click to make sure we're selecting the text here. That's the text in here. So now let's just adjust this here. And then for this size, I just need to make that to just fill the container so that we can have that. So I can just easily do this. Yes, so that we can adjust the size of the text. So this is starting future, so I can go back in here. I'm sure that this is almost the same thing with what we are having. So we have this here. So now that we have this, we need to create this section here with this image. So for this section, we might not be able to implement the prototyping, but let's just try to do something here. So I'm going to have this here, drag this here somewhere. Let's see where it's stopping. So that means we have to increase the size of this. And don't forget, I have my frame here, a frame I created here. I just don't know where to select this. But if you press Command Shift O or Control Shift O, so we can get this negative mode. And then if you want to exit this, is Command Shift O again. And I think you can go View, and then let's see View here. I think Max Outline, or I don't know which is this, but let's see. There should be that option here. Okay, there is this outline here. So for Windows, you can just hover over this to see. For Mac, it's just Shift and then Command and then O. And then if I press this here, we're going to get that. So if the Control Shift O doesn't work for Windows, you can just do the same. Just come in here, check view, and then where we have the outline, you can just see the commands here. So I'm going to come back. So Command Shift O, we enter that mode, and then this is our frame. So now Command Shift O, come back here, and then let's add a field to this. So let's see what's the field. So I'll just click on the plus sign here, or we can use our primary inverse. Okay, that's not gonna work. So let's just add a field here. So this color, it's a bit different. It's not the primary inverse, and I think it has been used, or it was used just here. So I'll press eyedropper and then select whatever is here. So now that we have this, we can now improve the corner radius. For this, we can select this, and let's try 24 and see if that's too much. Let's compare it with what we are having here. That's too much here, so let's go 64 here, and hope it's not too much. Yeah, that's too much. 48 should be fine. Then now that we have this, let's resize this to 640. Then we need some images. I'm going to go back to the resources file here, and I think I'm just going to grab 3 of this. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we can just grab everything here, just 4. Copy these images and let's bring them here, and then we can paste that. So now here we can lock this. I'm just going to change it to 118 here like this, and for this I think we can just keep 670. So I'll unlock this size here, and then let's keep this to 670 here. So now you want to make this an auto layout. To do that, press Shift A on your keyboard. So make sure you're not breaking this. Let's just make this straight. And then for the spacing between them, I think I'm just going to manually adjust this. Let's try 38 and see. So we have these are items. So let's see if there's a border radius on this. So each of this item have a border radius. So we can select, make sure you're selecting them individually, and then we can add a corner radius here. So let's say 32 here. Now that we have the 32, we just want to make sure that this here, we can just drag this and then drop it inside this section. So to do that, you can just select this, Ctrl X, then select, because this is a frame, we can just Ctrl V to paste that inside. So now we can just press Shift so that we can move this down a little bit. So now here we can just start aligning this so that we start from the first image here. We're not going to work on the animation here, so we can just make this scrollable. So now that we have this, I can just still push this in here. Okay, let's just make sure it's starting here. So now we can just drag this here and stop here. Then what you need to do is go to prototype, and then for the overflow, we can just turn on the horizontal scrolling, and then you can get this. So if I scroll down here for this section, we can just do this, move this without manually. So because this is going to take a lot of time trying to create that animation. So once we have this, I'm going to increase the size of this, exit the prototype mode, and then we can then create the comment sections that we have below here. So now we just have the heading and then the title. So I'll just grab this for a comment head. So now I'm going to create a text here. So just paste this here, zoom in, and let's resize this to 24 as our heading. Let's change this first to bricolage here. That should be bricolage here. So once we change this to 24, we can also grab the comment here, and that's 2 lines. So I can just create this here. We need 2 lines here, paste that, and this can be 16, and then it's supposed to be enter. So once we have our enter, we can now reduce the font size here. It's not semi-bold, it's just regular, and then we can just do this here and make sure that we're covering this. And the 16 I think looks too big for this, so 14 looks okay. So we can adjust the line height, and then you can just check and then make sure that this looks better. So now these 2 items, we want to make sure that they are all dark. So I'm going to select this and apply the dark color here. So we have this, and then we need this line at the top, so we can use the pen tool to achieve that. I'm going to select this, and let's see where it's covering. Okay, it's covering, okay, almost from the beginning here to the ending here. So now that we have this, I'll click done, and then we have this. Let's change this color to dark here as well. So we have item 1, 2, and then 3. Let's see the spacing. I think the spacing is not even, so let's group these 2 items together. Press Shift A to put them in an auto layout. I'm going to adjust the spacing here to, let's say, 10, and then this is another item. Let's select this, Shift A, and we can increase this here to 24. So we have this. If you really want to style this, which I really can't see what they did there, we can just adjust this stroke here to whatever which you want. If we want 0. Let's say 7 or 0.8, depending on how slim you want that to look. So let's just convert this to a component here, and this is going to be, what's this? Okay, a futures. So now we have the first thing here should be the title here. So make sure you're double clicking on this to select this item. Then here we can just create the title of that. Then here just the description, select this and this, then create a property disk here. So now we have this item, so we can just simply come into our assets here and then look for futures, letter F. This is arranged alphabetically for us, so we can just drag this and then drop this here. So we have the first item here, so I can Ctrl D for the second and then Ctrl D for the third item. So if we come back here, I can grab this text here and then let me select this, and I can change the heading for this. Then I'll do the same thing, grab the description, come back in here, and then we can just simply replace this item here. We can do the same thing for the third one, copy, and then let's come back in here, select this, and I will paste this here. Okay, that is supposed to be the heading. So I'll grab the body as well, copy this, and then we can just simply replace that here. So now we have this section. I think it's completed, and let's see the alignment here and then try to align this together. So I'm going to select these items, put them in an auto layout by pressing Shift A, and we're going to drag this item to the end in here, and we make sure that this is also aligned to the end here. So but for the space between them, instead of using a number, we're going to set that to auto, so it's going to push this to the end here. We can adjust this a little and as well select this frame, and then let me just try to push this frame. Let me undo that first, push, and then adjust this frame here like this. If anything is moving here, it's probably the constraints, and I'll show you how you can adjust the constraints. So now that we have this section completed, we can just simply create this other section. So this looks almost the same with the first section here. So what I'm going to do to save time is I'm just going to grab this section here. That's this text here. Copy this, and then we can just paste that at the bottom, but I can just drag that and drop this here. So now if I go back in here, you see we have almost the same thing. So I'll just grab this here, Ctrl C, and we can come in here, double click to change the text. So I'll just paste that here, and then for this we can just grab this, Ctrl C, and then double click here, then paste that here. But this is just 2 lines, so 2 lines. So here we just have to make that 2 lines. Yeah, so what? Okay, that's perfect. So I can grab this text here as well, Ctrl C, copy that, and then double click here and then paste whatever we're having there, and this should also be 2 lines. So now I think I can grab this. Let's see, it's ending products. That is perfect. So my next thing here is to make sure I'm reducing the spacing between the items here. So to achieve that, because this was 3 lines, so here you see we have an excess when you select this. So double click on this. After hovering on this, double click, and then it's just going to fit this here to just have an automatic hide. So we have that section. Now we need to add this image here. So let's just go back to our layers here, then resources. I think we should have roadmaps as, if I'm not mistaken. So product and roadmap. So I have this selected. Let's look for the section that is selected. So this section. So let's see if we have any of this here planned. Okay, I don't think we have that here. So we need to just grab that image directly from our design. So to achieve this here, so right click here and then let's open this image here. So here, open in a new tab, or we can just copy image. But then by the time this tutorial is out, you might just simply see it here. I'm just going to add it to one of these properties here. So once you've copied that image, I can come back in here and then Ctrl V to paste that image. So once I've pasted that image, I can just drag it somewhere here and then hold Alt and Shift on MacBook, Option and Shift. Let's adjust this towards the center here. So once you have this, I can just come in here, make sure that this is starting. Let me just come in here. So for this, I make sure it's starting here. So for clarity, the image covers somewhere here, but if you want to just make this better, you can just do this in such a way that it's just going to extend towards this outside our grid system. So now I can do the same thing here, select this item here, and then I can drag this here. We're breaking the grid, but because the image it's having a transparent background, so we're not just going to notice that. So I can do this here again. So now we have our image, and then I think this section is almost completed. So let's just create this component here. Ctrl C, then we can come back in here and I'll create my heading here. So once we have this, I'm going to set this to 24. That's for the heading. Let's check the size here. So let's set this to 32. That's our heading. Then I'm going to grab this text here, Ctrl C, and then come back. We can now create our text here and paste this. Sorry, that's the wrong way to do that. I'm going to select this and then just create a text area, paste this. We can now change this to Inter. So once this is changed, we can now make sure that this is regular. Let's see. Yes, that's regular. And then we can now adjust the size of this to 16 or 14. Make sure that the text alignment is from left to right. We have this here. So double click here, and then I'm going to select these two items and then make sure that the color is dark. So once we have this, yes, we are almost done with that. We just need to create or add an image to this. So we have 3 image, 1, 2, 3, and I think we have all of this. We have all of this in the resources folder. So now I'm going to click on the resources section here, and let's look for those 3 images. And I'm going to come down in here, and I think we have 1, 2, 3 here. So I'm just going to convert them to components, 1, 2, 3 here. So here, first one, I'm going to select this, and let me be sure of the images. Here we will have one with dark, that's this. And then which other one? This one with multicolors, this 1, 2, 3. So here I'm going to just right click here, make sure you're on this section. Let's rename this items here. So I'm just going to say roadmap images. So a $sign and then N. So I'm going to rename this items. So now I can select this and then convert them to components here, and then convert them to components here again. So once I come back in here, we want to make sure that we are having that items here. So I'll come back. Let's close this. We're interested in the, let's check the roadmaps here. So I have roadmaps in each one. I can drag this and then drop this here, but that looks, too big. So now that we have this, I think we can lock this and convert this here. That's the width here. We can make that 400 here. And then here, I think I want the width here to be 260 here. 265 here or 64. That's for this. Then we have our items here. So we have item 1 here, which we set this to 24. This should looks better. This is going to look better. So for this, we can make this 14. Just trying to adjust this and then make sure that it looks the same with what we're having here. And let's see this. We are having, okay, need to be on the line, so we prioritize your need. I can do this here like this. So now after adding this and then changing the size of this, if we come back in here and look at this, we have more space in here. So I'm just going to select this and then add some spacing. Let's go 20 and then try to increase this as we go down here like this. So now we have this, looks almost the same thing with what we're having here. But the take on here is that if you look at this, these images are touching the edge of the card here. So now what we're going to do is to select these 2 items, press Shift A, and group them together. Now we can just change this to 24 here since we have this. Now since they are grouped together, they can have their own padding. We can go as much as 20, whatever we want here. So now that we have this, let's select this, hold shift and select this other item, then shift A to put them in an auto layout. So right now we can now add a field to this art design. So I can just click on the plus sign. The color we're going to use, press I here, and then on this art design here, let's scroll back to this and then press this after pressing the I. So once we have this color here, we can decide to add that to our color scheme, but I don't think we are going to need that. So now once we have this, I can select this item here. You see we have this design here, so we can play with the corner radius here. We can go from, let's say, 8 down continuously. Let's see how this is looking here. So we have this, it's going to be around 24 here. So having this 24, we have this chopped off here, but the bottom here is still not visible. So what we're going to do, we don't have the border radius at the bottom. Make sure you're selecting the frame and then you clip item to content, and we're going to have that. So the spacing at the top here, we need to add spacing at the top. So we can select this inner item here, and then for the spacing at the top, I'm just going to go 20 here. So it's not going to touch this, but this is going to be affected. So, but right now, yes, we can keep adding this. Let's see if that looks okay. So I can add more here. So I can just do this. But the disadvantage is when I'm adding this, I'm getting an extra space in here, which we don't want. So here we can select this item here. And then for the spacing at the bottom here, let's say we're setting that to 0 at the moment. So we just have that spacing at the top. And this we can just fill the container here. And that looks better. So we can now add properties to this. So to add properties, we can select this and then convert this here. And then we can just change this to card. So now select this name here. That's the first text. And then click on this item here. This is going to be the title. Here we can just select this. This is going to be create a new property description here. Text like this. Then here we can select this here, and this is going to be our image. So now that we have this, we can reuse this component here with ease. So if we come back here, we have 1, 2, 3, and I can just come in here and then look for page 1. I'm looking for card. So we have this. Figma arranged this alphabetically. So drag this, and then we are going to drop this here. So now I can Ctrl D to duplicate this, and I'll just do that again. So we have 3 items. So let's just change this properties here, copy this, and then customize color. I can just change that here, and this other one here, come in, copy this. I can just still come in here and then just paste this here. So I think I just mistook this. So let's just select this, put them in an auto layout, Shift A. So I can just select this and then drag this here. So now we're going to do the same for the third one here. Maintain whatever we are having there, and then I can select this here, the last one, and we can paste this. And I'm going to come back in here, copy this, and then come back and replace whatever we are having here. So we're left with the images here. So to fix the images, let's see how they arrange their own images. So we have the first one here, which is fine. Then the second one that has to do with the color. So I'm going to select this item here, or let's select this as a whole so that we can easily just change this. Now we need to change the image. So we have our image here. So roadmap 1, I don't know. So let's select this here. That fits in perfectly. Select this, and I'm going to change the image here. So we have the roadmap this here. So you see, that is how we can easily just change these items, and then we have our reusable component. Now we can just group these items. Let's assume that this is also part of our text here. So let's just create a line. I'm going to grab this item here, then from here to here. So make sure we're starting on this, and then hold shift to create that straight line. Make sure you're holding shift, then click on this other end here, then click on the button at the top here, done. So I'm just going to press I on my keyboard and then pick this color here. And I think that is not too great here, so we can just adjust that to get something a little bit thicker here. So if you want to get the same thing, you can just pick the eyedropper and then select the color we're having there. But this is not a priority, so I'll just drag this here and then push it to the top. Now I'm just going to grab this text here, Ctrl C to copy, and then let's come back here and then create this section for that text, and then I'm going to paste this here. So this, we have 2 lines, and then roadmap should be yes, that's where it's ending. So let's center this text here. But super is not for you. We can now select this. Super is not for you. Ctrl B or Command B on Mac to just make that bold, and then you can still press Command U to make that underline. So you see we have achieved this here, and then I think it's not supposed to be bold. So let's see if semi-bold looks fine. So it should be semi-bold, which looks okay. And the spacing between the text here, I think it looks great. Okay, it looks great. That's the spacing, so no need for us to start adding spacing here, so that we are just taking to 0. So that looks great. So for the color, please make sure we're changing that to our dark color here. We can now group everything we have here into a frame. So we have from this here to this, it's one section. So now we can let's try to group this item 1, 2, and then whatever we have in here. So let's say these 2 items here, Shift A, they are one item. Yes, it's just one item here. So now that's a group, then there's a group, and then there's a group. So 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Shift A to put them in a group. So we have this alignment here. So now I can just right click. You might notice that this is breaking out. That's because of this image, and I explained why we just broke out, because we have a transparent background. So for this, right click, and then let's frame the selection here. So once you frame this, you can go back to layout. You see we have our frame. I can just drag this here somewhere here, and I'll do the same thing here. It's not going to affect your design, so try to cover this here. And we can now select our design here, center this, and then center this here. So this is our bigger frame here, and then we have this design. So we can rename this to public roadmap. So public roadmap. So let's check if we actually renamed this section here. I think we did not, so I'm just going to rename that to feedback here. So now that we have this section done, the next thing here is to fix this other section here. So this is also easy to fix. We have we can just grab whatever we are having here. I think this section here, I can just copy this, or we can duplicate that. Ctrl D to duplicate, and then I'm just going to drag one of this here. So what I need to do is to just change the orientation of this and then delete some items. So here I can just change that here to start from the left. So the same thing with this other text here. So let's just take out things that we don't need. We also don't need this here. So this is what we need. So now for this, we want this to start from the left hand side. So now I can select this text here now, and then make sure it's starting on the left hand side. The same thing with this here. So this starts from the left. This also, I think I just changed that, starting from the left. So here this as well should start from the left hand side. So now let's change the contents of this first. So I will just grab this and just double click here and then paste that here. And then for this, I think I just made a mistake. Was not supposed to remove the button. So but we can select these items here, and let's remove the from auto layout. So I'm going to click this to remove them from auto layout. So now I can select this item here, and as well we still have a nested auto layout here. So now select this, and then let's destroy the auto layout here. So we just need one frame for this, so I'll just drag this outside. Then for this frame, I'm going to delete this. So now we have this item. We can just align them together towards the ending part here. So now I'm going to grab this, prioritize the text here, and then I'm just going to change this, paste this here, and then let's grab here as well this, and let's replace this here. So now that we have this, I can just select this, grab this at the bottom. We have this section here. So now let's add our button. This time we're using the BTN dark. So come in here, right click on the text, and we can copy this. So this is going to copy with the arrow here. So coming back here, we just paste this. Once you paste this, you're going to get that arrow, and then I'm going to delete that. Press enter, and then we have this. So we're going to turn off the star icon here and then turn on the show arrow. And you see we have our design. So now we just need to arrange these items here. So I can select this. Let's go back to layers again. Let me just remove these items from this frame 4. So I'll just select them here, everything, and then take them outside and then delete frame 4 because we just need to realign them together. So now item 1, item 2, 3, and then 4. Shift A to put them in an auto layout, and we can adjust the size here to 34 here or 32. So let's change the color of this title here. I'll press I. We have this color here, and I'm just going to zoom in and then select this color here. So once you select that, I think we can create this other section that we are having. So to achieve that, I'm just going to drag this down here so that we can see what we are creating here. So now that we have this section, the next thing we want to do is to add a frame here. So now I'm going to drag this, and then let's make sure that this is 5, let's say 50 for this. That's for the width, and then for the height, I think I'm just going to make that maybe 590 here like this. So if that's too big, I think it's too big, so we can just adjust that a little. Let's say 560, because we're going to now apply this color. So I'm going to press I, or let's add a fill to this, then press I, and let's select this color here, that's this pink here. Once we've selected this color here, we can now add the image that is inside this. So let's go back to our resources where we have these values here. So now I'm just going to rename this to value. That's the name of this image. Then convert this to a component. Now let's come back to our page 1 here. So I can go to assets files now, and I'm just going to look for, let me close page 1, resources. And then let's look for product roadmaps, and then let's open that. We should have value here. So I'll just drag this and then drop this in here. So now I just need to adjust the size of this. So I'll hold shift, try to adjust this here. And then I have this, which is settled within the center of this. So you can adjust this here. So now we have this. We can now add our border radius to this item. So we can go, let's try with 24 here and see. If 24 is too small, let's see if that is too small compared to what we are having on the website. Okay, so that is too small compared to what we are having here. So we can just go 34, and then I think I'll just stop there. So we need to make sure that this effect, we're having this effect all around. So now for this, I'm going to select this and then come back to this fill. So select this color. Instead of solid, we're going to go with gradient. So our gradient is going to start from top to bottom. So for this color here, I'm going to select the second color. We're going to change that to white. So the moment you do that, this is going to start looking like this here. So it's left for you. We now want to push this upward here. So make sure you're clicking on the dot here. Make sure you click on that, then drag this here so that we can have this movement here. So we now have this, which looks almost the same with this. So, but towards the edge here, let's say I can close this. Towards the edge here, we have a white color here. So let's see how we can achieve this. And also maybe towards somewhere here, we just have some little color difference here. So to achieve that, I'm going to create an ellipse here. Let's say I'll just drag this here and then make sure that I'm sending this to back. To do that, right click, and then we can just send to back. So make sure we're changing the color here to white. Once this is white, we can just add an effect to this, and we are going to select the layer blur. So once we select the layer blur, open this, and let's start with 200 because we want to distort this completely. So 200, and I think I'll just reduce that. Let's try 120 here. Let's see, because 200 is too much. Okay, so now you see we have those white color here. So I'm just going to try to push this somewhere here at the top. Let's just reduce this to maybe 10 so that you can see our, you see, we have this. So, but now the more you reduce this, this becomes transparent and then blurry. So the 120 should do just fine here. And we can even go that far and then increase this so that if you want that to look maybe more like this, let me just scroll down to this. If you want that to look like this, I'll just go back here. You can just adjust this. You see, I'm not having the proper cycle, but then you just need to adjust this to fit into the project requirement. Now that we have this, if you want this other color here, I know we can just select this ellipse. Let's go to our layer here. This ellipse, Ctrl D to duplicate it, then drag this here. I think I did not duplicate that. Ctrl D, we have our second ellipse. Then I can now drag this somewhere here. But dragging that here, we need to change the color. That's the fill here. I'll click on this whole eye and then zoom in to select this other color here, this purple. But for this purple, you notice that we have this, and then the opacity, we need to play with that a little so that we can have just something like this mixed with white. So here I'm going to reduce this to 10 here, like this a little. Then let's increase this so that we just get that color mix here. So now when I do this, we have the color mix with the white, the purple, and then if you keep going, you're just going to get more of that purple here. So I'll recommend you stay within 20 and then 15 in between, so we can have that. So I'll stick to 15. So every other one here, you can just manually add that. If you want to play with this image, because I noticed the image has its own borders here, so we can just try to increase this a little here. Something like this, then we can adjust the spacing at the top. But if you want to maintain the original shape, this is still good. So now here, the size of the image, we have 480 by 480. Then for this, we're using 500 by 560 here. Now that we have these two items, we can then group these two items, 1 and then item 2. So let's see if this is possible. Okay, we can just group this using the auto layout. So Shift A to put them in an auto layout, but this time we're going to align this to the bottom here. That's this item here. So let's see if that's too much. If it is, then we just need to readjust this. And then for this item, since this is an auto layout, we can't do much here without adding the absolute position. So I'm just going to minus the auto layout. So now I can now double click this. Automatically it's now a frame. I can now push this here, somewhere here. And then you see we have this, and then looks good. So now we can just increase the space in here and then try to drag this here. And then for this, let's see how it's aligned. It's aligned towards the ending here, so we can select this and then push this to the ending part here. So the next section is basically the repetition of this, but we're just going to reverse whatever we're having there. So now I'm going to go back to our design, and I'm going to select this section, Ctrl D to duplicate, drag this down here. So we just need to swap this. If this was an auto layout, I think it is. So I'm just going to drag this and then change the position, select this. I don't think they are inside an auto layout, and then change this here since they are not. But if it is, okay, this is the only item inside an auto layout. So now that we have this, we can now go ahead and then change the colors here. So let's grab this text here, Ctrl C to copy that, and then I'm going to zoom in so we can all see. So double click here, and then I'm going to paste this here. Now that we have this, let's grab this text here, Ctrl C, copy, and let's go back to our Figma, double click, and then let's paste that here. Come back here, and we can just quickly do this. Once you're here, right click it, then copy this. After copying this, we can come back in here, select this. We want to select the whole property here, so we can just change that here. It's going to come with the arrow, so delete the arrow and then press enter. We have this change lock here. So all we need to do is change the color of this text here. So I'm going to select this. So from pink here, we can come back here and then select this color here. I think this is orange, so I'm going to select the dark one here. So we have this section here. So we need to change the image here as well. So let's come back in here. We're using this image. So let's go back to our resources here and see if we have that image. So I think we have that categorized here on that change lock. So we're going to convert this to a component and say this image 24, we can just change that to change lock here. So now that we have this, let's go back to page 1 and I'm going to select this item, delete this, and let's delete the ellipse. I think we have 2 ellipses inside, so we can select this and let's go to resources. Okay, no need for that. Let's go back to assets, and here we should have change log now here. Now drag this and then drop this in here. Yes, it's going to be this big, but we can then adjust this by holding Alt and Shift. On MacBook is Option and Shift. Then let's adjust this. This is going to adjust this perfectly towards the center. So grab this somewhere here, and I'm going to increase this here as well. Now that we have this, we need to play with colors here. So now let's see how this looks on the web. Okay, we can just adjust this a little bit. We can even make that bigger. So let's select this frame here, open this here like this. Then I'm going to select this image. So I'll just hold Alt and then Shift on MacBook, Option and Shift, then increase this like this. So now we have this. You can even play with the shadows here. So what we need to change first is the color. So to change that color, I will select this, and instead of this, I will hold this, and then let's select this color here, press I, and let's see I here, and then I'm going to pick the color here, which is like this is taking most of the space here, so I'll just select from this section here. But once we've done that here, we now have this, but we have lots of work to do here to actually get this color. So now we're going to add maybe the pink color or the purple first. So let's create a purple color. So I'm going to use the same ellipse, come in here and then drag this the same way we did that earlier, but this is going to be, we want to push this to back. So I will just do this and then send to back. So this time we want to increase the size of this. So now once we add this, now I'm just going to press I and then let's select this color here. I'll just pick this here. So once we have this, we're going to follow the same steps that we've been using so far. So drag this here, and to get the best result, I think you can select the image here and then try to lock this so that we don't keep touching that again. So anything I'm selecting, I can select the image again. So I have to double click to select this. So let's add an effect to this. So we are going to use the plus sign and we're going to go with the layer blur here. So for the layer blur, let's go 200 this time. So once we have this, we can start dragging this somewhere here to balance this. So we can duplicate this again, bring this here. Let's see, I think I did not. Ctrl D to duplicate, drag this here. So we need other colors. So I will press I on my keyboard, come in here. We want this color here. So I'm going to select this. Once I come back in here, I'm going to bring this somewhere here. So if we want to even make this more obvious, we can just make this a little bit thicker here. So now we make sure that we are reducing this so that it's going to be visible. Any color we are selecting here, so we can just make that a little bit visible. So let me use the purple color here, purple, and here I'm just going to make that 200 here. And then for the opacity, we are going to reduce this a little to, let's say 20 here and see. So if you drag this here and then come back in here, let's increase this a little here. We're still going to get that splash here all around. So it just needs you to take time to just try to apply this colors here. And then we can even come toward the ending here, Ctrl D to duplicate this here. So now I can just drag this towards the ending part here. And we notice that this is a little bit, let's reduce this. This is I here, and let's change this to this color, but it's just a lighter version of that. So we can just click this and then come to this end here. And the secret here is if this is big, it's going to affect the other parts. So we can make this small here and then so that it's going to concentrate on the edge here. So if you come in here, you see we have this lighter version. So we can just keep going down here till this is fully white. And then you can just adjust that. So now for the blur here, you can just reduce this. The more you reduce this, we're going to make that white. So now that we have that, you can play around with this other section here. You can also reduce this here so that we don't have that color looks too thick. So I will use 15 to 20. And then for this other section here, we can duplicate this, drag this here to this point. And if I press I here, I just want to select this other color here. And then if we come back in here, you see we have the color here. So you can drag this here because we've already set this. Now you can play with this. The layer blur is already set because we are duplicating that from the other section. So now once you do this, we're going to have something like this. This is not a perfect job, but then it's just going to serve for this. So now I can just drag this here. So let's select the frame here. This is my frame. I'm just going to extend the frame here. So I will have to select these items and then push them so that they're going to start at the beginning here. So if yours is not like that, then that's fine. You can just pretty much adjust whatever you have in there. So I'll just do the same with this, adjust this here. So now we have this two section. So let's come back in here and see what we are having. We're having this section and we have something similar to that here. So I'm just going to select this group here, copy this, and let's say instead of copying, I'll just do Ctrl D here. So let's just drag this and then drop it here to just remove that from the parent group. So now that we have this line, I'm going to align this to the center and I'll press down here. And we can grab this text here, copy this, and then come back in here, double click, then we can paste this here. So we still want to maintain two lines here. So I'll click outside and come back to just drag this. So let's see, we have channels, question mark, and then that is good. So the super hub is not for you. We're going to drag this here, Ctrl U to underline, and we are going to use the semi-bold here for this. So yeah, this looks great, and we can now group this section from this item, this, and then this. To do that, let's just make sure we're putting them in an auto layout with enough spacing in between. So I think the spacing here is good, and then this is also good. So I'll just select these two items, Shift A to put them in an auto layout first, then hold this item, Shift A to put them in an auto layout together. Right now we can right click here and then frame this selection here. So now we can just drag this frame because we're here, and then drag this frame here to this. Now select this and then do this. So now we have our frame, which is the bigger frame here, that you can just add a color, a fill to that. If we do that, it's going to add white by default. We can even extend this a little here. So we can have this toward the center, and I'll push this here. So if I select this frame, at least it has some kind of margins here, so this is aligned to this. So we can rename this to priority here, priority. So once we've done this, we can now, you see, we're running out of space here, so we need to increase the height of this. So now we can select this MacBook. So I'll zoom in, select the MacBook, come somewhere here at the bottom and try to, let me reduce this, try to drag this to the bottom here. So now once we have this additional spacing, in case any of your items is moving, if it is this section, because we are wrapping them here, you have to make sure that this is only moving for the top and bottom. It should be stuck to the top. The same thing with this, you see, this is stuck to the top. That is why we're putting them in a frame. This is stuck to the top by default. The same thing with this section, you see, it's stuck to the top. Here it's another frame stuck to the top here, and this as well, top, even our item here is stuck to the top here. So that's how to just solve that constraint problem by just wrapping each of this item. But we're going to perform some animations. That's why we're doing this. Now that we've completed this section, we can now work on the testimony section here. So right now I'm just going to create a text here, and I think I'll just grab this testimonial. So let's copy this here, come back to our design, and I'm going to paste this here, testimonial. So this, I'm going to make that, let's see, that should be medium. And then for the spacing between this item, we want to add more space between the text so that it's going to look like this. Then I'm going to set this to 16. then we can grab this other text here. So you're grabbing with the heart emoji here because this is an emoji, not an icon. So I'm going to paste this. Once you do that, you're going to get this result here. So now I'm going to zoom in, and then let's increase the size of this to 42 or 48. Let's see how this looks. Now we're going to change that to let's change the font family. After adding this and changing the size, let's change this to bricolage here. So now we have this 2 items here. We can now, I think I will set this to semi bold here, and that looks better. Then we can set the color to our primary. Then we're going to use the primary color here. So let's select these 2 items, Shift A, put them in an auto layout, and let's try to center them here. So we want to create this comment section here. The first thing to do is to go back to our resources, and we need some items here. So I think we have all the items we need here. So, and I think they are not components, so I'm just going to try to convert each of this item to a component. So I'm going to do this for each of this. And then one good thing about this is that we need to make this rounded, but let's just grab the first one here. Now that we're here, we can go to Assets page, and then let's wait for this to load, and we have our icons here. So I'm going to grab the first image here. So I'm going to drag this and drop this here. Let's click on the layer here. So I need to double click this here to select the image, and for the border radius, let's say I'm making this 200. So please, you have to double click to select the image and then change that. So if you click on this back here, we can lock this and adjust the size here. I think I'll make this 42. So I can zoom in so we can see this. So what we need to do is to just grab the username here, and the username you're seeing here, this is also a text. I'm going to grab this, then create a text area, just paste this 2 items here. But after pasting this, I just want this to be a separate text, so I'll just Ctrl X to cut this, and this is going to be Inter, and I will set that to 16. And then we don't need the Twitter, we just need the username there. So now that we have this here, I can just create another text here and paste this here, and this time this is going to be Inter again, and it should be 12. But the spacing between each of this text here, let's just make that 0 because it's copying that from the previous edit we made. So now that I have this is going to be, let's see, regular, and then this is going to be medium. So I think that looks great. So let's change the color. This is going to be our black color here, and then this we can change that to our secondary color. So we have this 2 items here. So if you want this to look exactly like this, that's for this, you can just choose a lighter or a more grayish color than this. So I'm going to select these 2 items, press Shift A to put them in an auto layout, and the spacing between them, I think 2 is fine. Then select this item here, press Shift A to also put them in an auto layout, but this time we want this to align to the center here. So now that we have this, we need icons. We need the Twitter icon and the LinkedIn icon here. So now after having this, we need to add the icons. So we can go back to our resources item, and here we're going to get the logos here. So I'll select this item here. I will convert this to a component. I will do the same thing for this, convert that to a component. So this, I'm just going to name that X, and then this here, I will name that to LinkedIn. So after renaming these items, we can come back in here and then grab any of these items from the assets section. So we can close this and go to icons and logos. So I will just drag, let me use that of the X. Let me close this. I would just want to use this first. So I'm using X here. So now let's select these 2 items, Shift A to put them in an auto layout. So we can adjust the spacing between them. Let's say I'm keeping 55 here. And the next thing we have it's the comment section here. So I think we have the star here already. So I will just grab the star from one of our designs here. So I think I will make this available in the asset section. So you just have to convert that to a component and then you can easily reuse this. So I'll just paste this here. Let's just do that now. And then convert this to a component so we can just have this rating. And then each time you want to use this, you don't have to start looking for that everywhere. We can just go to assets and drag this and then drop this here, which makes it easier to use. So after this, we just need the comments. So I'll just copy everything here, Ctrl C, and then I'm going to bring this here. Then paste this. So I just want this to start on the next line here. So now that we have this, let's change the color of this text here to dark. So I'm going to do this. So now we can select item 1 and 2 and 3 and then align them properly here. So now I'm going to select, this is our first item, second item, and then the third item. Shift 8, put them in an auto layout, and let's make sure that they are aligned to the left hand side. And then for the text here, I think we might want to, okay, let's leave it this way for now. So after selecting this item, we need to add a fill to this. So the fill can be white. So I'm going to add the fill, which is white, and then we can add a stroke to this as well. So the stroke here, we can change the color of the stroke to our secondary color here. Then let's play with the padding. So here, let's say we have 12 for this. Here, I'm going to set that to, let's say 16. And we need some corner radius here, and let's set that to 8. So now that we have this, we can now make this reusable. To do that, we're going to just say, let's say Twitter comment. Now that we have this, let's convert this to a component. Now we can now double click to select the name here. So this, we can create a property called name. So the one underneath this is going to be username. So create property, username. Then here, this is going to be comments, create property, comment. Then here, this is going to be our icon. So to do that, we just going to use this section here. Then create property here. This is going to be, let's say social. Then this other one here, we're going to also create a property here. This is going to be called the image of the user. So you can use image instead of images. Now that we have this, I can come in here and let's go back, close this here, go back to page 1, and we are looking for Twitter. So I can drag this first comment and then drop it here. So now we have this. So let's look at the color here. It's a little bit grayish. It's a little bit grayish, so we can detach that secondary here. To do that, I'll just do this and then select this and adjust this somewhere here. So let's see how it looks on this screen. So I think this is manageable. So once we have this, I can select this item here, Ctrl D to duplicate this. And then let me just quickly show you how we can change this. So let's see how many we have. 4 columns, Ctrl D, again, Ctrl D, and we have the 4 columns. So for the first item, let's say we are changing this. We have the username here, Ctrl C. I'm just going to select this item. So where we have the username, that's where we are going to replace that. Then the next item here, we have it's the comment section. Okay, and the username. So let me grab the comment. So we have the comment here. I'll paste that here, press enter. So, but right now you see, automatically this is going to extend to the end. So that's what I want to show you. So here that we have this text here, I'm going to select this item here, and then we're going to change that to fill container. So if I come back to this section here, you see this has been filled within this container here. So that is how to fix that problem. Now that we have this solved, let's play with the name of this user again. Please, let's change this here. Select this. I'm going to select copy this, and then I'll replace this one here, and then we grab the username here. So I think this is also an X user. So for this, we have these are the ones. I'm going to fast forward this so that we don't spend much time doing this. So now that we have at least tried to change some of this, let me just show you. If you want to change the icon, it's also pretty simple. You select the item here, and then where we have, you see we have all the profile pictures here. So I can just simply change this. But here we are going to get this square here because they are actually not circle. So let's do the same thing here, and then I'll show you a general solution to that. I'll select this, and then we can have this as well. So now we can go back to our resources items here, and then where we have this profile pictures, we can make sure that double click here. I think let's just open each of this item here. So we can hold command or control and select each of the image here like this, and I'll select this. So now I'm just going to divide this by 200. That's the border radius. I'll just give that 200. So now if we come back to this, you see automatically it's going to fix this problem for this and also for this as well. So that's how we want them to look. So once you're done with that, we can just keep changing the names. You can duplicate this here to have this. So let me just show you how to group this to get this symmetric design. So now we can, let's say we grab this text here, and I come in here and I paste this here. We have this. And then if you're not okay with the text orientation because it's like we're having much space in between, you can come back here to the main component here. Select this item here, and then for the spacing between them here, we can set that to, let's say, 24. And then we can go back in here and see, you see we have spacing now in between this text here. So now I just need to select this and then drag this down a little here. So that's how to fix that problem. So we can duplicate this, drag this here, somewhere here like this. And then let's make sure that please the width of this is all the same thing here. Okay. Like for this now, I think something is affecting the width here, and can't seem to find out what's the problem. Let me select this, Ctrl D, drag this here. Okay. So we need to use a fixed width for our design, so that we don't get this kind of effect here. We just need a fixed width. So I'm going to select this item here and make sure that the width here is fixed. So if the width is fixed, you see we're going to have all of this now in shape. So we can easily just work with this because we need the width to all be the same. So now that we have item 1, 2, 3, and I think we just have one item, I can duplicate this, drag this here. Just make it look a little bit asymmetric like this. So the secret for this grouping is you're going to group this in column wise. So if I press Shift A, I'll make sure that the spacing, let's say if the spacing is 18, I'll just do the same here. Shift A, make sure that the spacing is 18 here. And I'll do the same for this. Shift A, make sure that the spacing here is also 18. And for this 3 item, 1, 2, 3 here, Shift A. And then this is going to be 18. So now you can now select all of these items, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then Shift A to group them together. So now we're going to have this pattern here. And the good thing here is if you want to even make this look more better, is if we can make the spacing between them 18, or let's just drag this so that it covers everywhere. Once we have this, we're going to make sure that the spacing between them here is auto. So if it's auto, then for this item here, I think I would just have an idea. It should be around, let's say 28. So if I can select item 1, 2, 3 here, and I can just make this 28 here, so that it just looks almost the same with the spacing that we're having in between these items here. So now that's how to work on this section here. So let's see. We can now grab the other item we have. So now that we have this, I can now select this item here, Ctrl D here, and then I'll just drag this outside to this section here. So let's just center this here. So we can grab whichever text we are having here, and then Ctrl C, and Now I can double click to select this, paste this here, highlight this, Command U or Control U, then we can make this semi-bold here, and then we have this section. So now we can highlight these items here, and then we have a section. So now I'm going to right click this and then frame the selections here. So you can put them in an auto layout first, but I think I'm okay with this. So this is going to be comments from social, like this. So we're going to skip one of the sections here, which is this section, so that we can just quickly round up, because I think we're spending over 2 hours here, and I was planning for this to be just 2 hours. So let's quickly create this section here. So we already have most of the components, so I'm going to come back into my design here. So let's select this part here, Ctrl C here to copy, and I'll select this and then paste this here. So I think I just paste in the same position here. So now that we have this section here, we just need to change most of these things here to center. So here I see tools, so I'll just grab this here, Ctrl C, and I will select this here. I think the best item we would have copied should be the first one at the top. Then here, see all features, we're going to grab that here and then paste this. So this is going to be, the alignment should be center. The same thing with this, the alignment should be center. Copy this, and then I'm just going to double click, paste that here, alignment should be center. So now we can just take away this button here, this item. Let me select this, make sure you double click so that this is going to align properly. And for the size of this, I think we need to increase this to 18 here. And let's see if it's starting easily. Okay, that's fine by me. And we can reduce the spacing between them. Initially, I was supposed to change that to 28. Okay, good. So now that we have this section here, we can now add these items here. But this here, it's these are just text. They are not icons. So to achieve that, let's just quickly create a simple text here. So let's grab one of this text here first. Let's grab one of this, Ctrl C. I'm going to copy with the emoji, then text, then try to paste that here. Okay, I think I just copied everything there. So since I just have that luxury, I can just grab one of this, Ctrl C here, then create another text layer here, then paste that. So now I'm going to press Shift A to put this in an auto layout. Then we can now add a field to this. So let's see if our secondary is going to, okay, definitely our secondary cannot serve for that. So now we can select this, add some border radius or corner radius around this. I think 8 should be just fine. So after adding this, we need to change the color of this, our text here, to our dark color. So this is going to be dark. So the next thing, I'll press I on my keyboard, and then I think I'll select this color here, this gray color. So now we can come back to our design here, our component. So we now have this here, and we can just create the property for this after converting this to a component. So I will just rename this to single feature. So after renaming this to a single feature, so we can now double click on this and then add a property to this. This is going to be, let's say, title or feature, anything you want. So now we have access to this. So we can come in here and then grab this item from our asset section, single feature. We have this, and let's see, it's like the text here, it's a little bit bold. So let's fix that here. I'm going to select this. Instead of regular, let's see, medium should do. And let's add some paddings here. Let's say 18 here, that looks better. And here, let's say 12. Okay, so I can duplicate this here. Ctrl D, just do this here. Ctrl D, 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 D again, continuously. So let's just try to change, since we have the text here copied. So if you don't, you can just go back to the browser and grab this. So once we have this copied, we can just select any of this item here, this, and then I'll just change the text here. So we should have the property at the top. Select this properly, and then I will just replace this. So I think to make this fast, I'm just going to grab this text here. Make sure I'm changing that to dark here so that we can just keep grabbing them easily. So I'll grab this, Ctrl C, I'll select this and then paste this here. So I'll do the same thing, set custom domain, grab this, Ctrl C to copy this, and I can select this item here, and I'm going to replace that here. So the best thing to do to get the result is to highlight over these items, put them in an auto layout, Shift A, so that we can just have the proper spacing between them. So here, let's say we are making 12. Okay, let's make that 16. Okay, now that we have this, I can now grab another one here again. Let's see, we have the privacy. Grab this. So I'm going to select this item here and paste the privacy here. So I'm done with this. So now that we have this, we can select this item and right click to put that in a frame. So we can just frame the selection here. So for the frame, make sure we're clipping item to contents. Then I'm just going to do this here. So part of that is hidden. So we can even increase the height of the frame here. So, but this is an item inside the frame. So when we have this, we can Ctrl D to duplicate this, then drag this under here. So now we're just going to push this here so that we can have this flow. So if I select this, I can just grab this and then push it up here. So now once we have this, we can select these two items here and make sure that the spacing between them here is 16. That's the two items that we're having inside, so that the space in between here to top is going to match between these two items here. So now that we have this, you can push this here to how you want it to be. Then we can now add this section. But mind you that we have this component created already. So what we're going to do is to come in here and then look for that component, drag it, and then drop this here. So we need this repeated 3 times. Ctrl D again. I'm going to drag this and then drop this here, Ctrl D. So we need to look for the images that was used here. So we can go back to our layers, then resources, and I'm going to look for those images here. So I think this is the first one here. Let's convert that to a component. I'll do this again. So let's select these 2 items, come back to this, rename. So now after selecting the 2 items, right click, and then I'm just going to rename these 2 items here. So futures, then $, and so we have future 1 and 2. So the third item is missing there. So we can just select this item where we have this. I'm going to select this, but it's going to bring out the roadmap because that's the item that was tied to it. So click on this back button here. So we can now look for the feedback now. Yes, feedback. So future 1, I have this, so select this. I'm going to come back here, roadmap, go back, and then we have feedback, then future 2. So I think I'm just going to select these items, Shift A, swap this to the first, Ctrl Z, select this item, swap the position. We have this in the first position. So you can just change this text quickly, and then we can move to the other section. So we can just change the titles here, and I'll do the same here, title. Okay, let me undo that. It's supposed to be for the second item here. So for the third one, I'll grab this and then we can change this. So now that we have this, I think one image is missing. So I can copy this one in the middle here, bring that here, and then we can select the resources item here. So I'm going to select the marketing section here. Let me try to select this and then push this away. Then we can just expand this a little. So by the time this tutorial is out, you don't have to worry to grab the image because it's going to be part of the resources. So here, this is going to be future 3 here, and I can convert this to a component. So when I come back in here, we can just simply select this. It's not part of the group. So we can go to roadmap, select this, feedback, and then change that to future 3. And then you can select this, drag this to center, and then it looks almost the same thing with what we are having on the web page. So now we can create this component quickly, which is going to be the last item. We're going to skip this and then create the footer. So now let's grab just this item here, Ctrl C, and then let's go back to our Figma file. So I'm going to create a text here and then paste this. So now that we have this, we need an icon. So let's go back to our resources file where we have our icons. So we have all the icons we need here. So I'm just going to select this items. This is chat, and I think I'll just convert them. So now if you want to be fast, you can use Alt Command K on MacBook to convert this to components. So in Windows, I think I can get it should be Alt Control then K, but you can check that. Right click here. Let's see if we have create component here. So for MacBook, you see is Option, Command and K. So you will see the shortcut there. So now we can just change this to chat just for easy. This is pen, and this can be letter. This can be Tom, and then this can be pin. Then I here. Just keeping that real. Then after that, we can now grab our item. Let's close this resources where icons here. So let's grab the first item and then drop this here. So for the size of this, I think we can just resize it directly from our assets, because that's the only place I think we might need this item. So I'll just select all these items here and then resize this. Let's lock this here. Let's say 42 and see how they look. That is fine here. So 42, I'll just grab this item. So let's get the comment here. Copy this, and I'm going to select this here. Same thing, drag this to create a text area and paste this. But this is going to align from the left hand side, and the size of this, let's make that 14, and the spacing between, let's make that auto. And let's see again. Okay, the font weight here should be regular, and I think 14 still looks too big here. Let's make this here that is good. So 12 looks okay. So double click here to make sure that this is attached to the text. So now that we have this, we're going to select these two items, Shift A to put them in an auto layout, then here 4, then we can select item 1, 2, 1 and then 2, Shift A to put them in an auto layout. So let's adjust the spacing between them to 24. So now that we have this, we can now create our property here. So now we can convert this to a component. So set list future. So now this is going to be, let's select this first. This is going to be our image or icon. Then this is going to be the heading. Come back here. This is going to be, let's say, title. Then this is going to be description. Here, create property, disc. Yeah, that spelling is wrong. But then let's select these two items. And then let's change the color here to dark. So now that we have this, we have our reusable components that we can just simply drag and then drop this inside. So I'm going to close this, go to page 1. Let's close those resources. So now we're looking for list future. Then I'll just drag this and then drop this here. So now I think we have 4 items per row, or okay, we just have 3 items. So that means we have to do a lot of work to increase the size of this items here. I'm going to select these items together. So we can just highlight these items here, Shift A, put them together, drag this and make sure that the spacing between them is auto, not a number. So we have this here. To change this text here or the properties, we can just go back and then let's grab one of this here. Let's see, downvotes. So we can select this item here, the title, I can paste this, and for the text, I can just grab this here. So I'll show you how you can change that of the icon. So I can just paste this here. For the icon here, we have our chats. So I can just look for thumbs or like. I can't remember what we named that. So thumb here. So now you can do that for the remaining ones here. And let's make sure that this text here, this is going to maintain just 2 lines. So I'm going to come back in here, select this item. Here like this, let's increase the width of this. Then select this item here. Let's say we want this to fill the container. So now that we have this, so we need to work on the inner text here. So double click on the inner text here and make sure that this is also fill in the container. So now that we have this, we can just have this text, and then this is going to look better. And then we can select this, duplicate this, so you can take your time to change the text one after the other. So now I'm going to select these two items, Shift A, to put them in an auto layout, drag them somewhere here. And let me just randomly change the icons here to the ones I can get closer here, preferred. So let's go to our local components here. So I'm going to resources. So here we are looking for icons. So here I can just use the pin, and I'll select this here. Let's see if I can just get that. I'll use the eye and then the rest. Select this. If I can get something closer here, thumb. I think we've used the thumb here already. Chat eye, and then the rest. Let me just pick the pen here. So once you change that, you're just going to get this section which is beautifully aligned. So we can just grab this other section here. That's this. Control D to duplicate, and then I can just drag that outside here and then bring this here. So I'm going to center this design here, and then we can just change the text, grab this, and then come back in here, double click, paste this here, sub is not for you, Control U or Command U, and then let's make that semi-bold here. And then we have this section. So I can come in here, hover over this, Shift A to put this in an auto layout first. Make sure that this is aligned to the center here. Once we do that, we can right click and then frame the selection here. So now drag this. So let me just show you a simple trick. Double click here to make sure you're selecting the auto layout here. So now for the auto layout here, we need some constraints here. So now for the left and right, we are just going to set that to center here. So now top and bottom here, I think we can also set that to center. So whenever you select the frame, that's the bigger frame here, and you try to drag this here, it's going to try to center this without me forcing it to be at the center. The same thing if you're increasing this here, you see it's just going to try to center itself here. So let's push this here to somewhere here. Now that we have this section completed, we can now go back and then work on this section. So now I'm going to create a frame here, and then I'm going to set the height to 520, like this. Then we need to go back to the resources page here and look for this image here. That's the marketing background. So for this, I can just copy this image here and then just paste that in this frame. Make sure we're selecting this frame, Control V inside. Now it looks too big, so you can hold Alt Shift. So on MacBook is Option Shift, then reduce this, then try to drag this in here. So we have our frame. So from here, I think I can just lock this and then make this 520 for the height. 520 here. So now once this is 520, I think I just need to, let's say, add a color to this fill. Let's just change the color to primary so that we can see where we need to cover here. So now I'll double click this. Now we just need to be sure we want to cover this section here, and we can try to adjust this like this to make sure that it's inside the container. Now that we have this, we can now add a border radius to the frame. To do that, select the frame, and then here we can go 32. So once you have that, make sure this is clipped to content. So after having this, I think we need to arrange this text here, 1, 2, 3, and then I have something we can just use here. So we can easily grab this section here, Control C, copy this section, and then let's bring that here. I'm going to zoom in back and then select this, then paste whatever we are having here. So now the first thing we need to take out here is this. I'm going to delete this, and then every other item we can change that to white. So here where we have the dark here, I'm just simply going to change that to white here like this. So where we have the white, I'm just going to simply change that to dark. And then where we have the dark here, I'm just simply going to change that to white again. Where we have the primary, I'm going to change that to white again. So we have this other color. I'm going to select that and change that to white. So you see we have this items here. So where we have the secondary, I think that's for this. I don't want to touch that. So inside this, I think we have the title here, and the color is white. So we can detach the color and then change that to a dark color. So now that we have this, we also have this other item here. So that means I can select this and then turn this off. But let's see if we need that. Yes, we need that. So that means I can bring that back on and then make sure that instead of white, double click to select the icon here. So instead of white for the selection, this is going to be dark. So but you can go ahead and then recreate a whole new button for this, the way we did for the other ones, but we're running out of time, so I just have to move a bit faster. So now that we have this, we have our items here set. So we can just detach this item from the main parent to avoid the hover effect. So I'm just going to detach this instant. The same thing here, right click and then detach instance here. So we have this. Let's just grab our text here. I'll just Ctrl C to copy this, and I'm going to replace this other text here, A, then Command V. So here we have 2 lines. I'm going to grab this, go back here, and then paste this. So I'm just going to extend this to just make sure that we're covering just 2 lines. So we can grab this text here as well, copy, and then I'm just going to paste this here. So now let's just reduce the spacing between these items. But before we do that, double click here and then come in here, double click to make sure that this height it's automated. We'll remove the extra height because we're having 3 lines now, it's just 2, so we need to fix that problem. So now we can drag this here, and then so now that we have this section here, we can just try as much as we can to reduce the spacing between them. And then I'm going to select this 3 text here as well, and then try to reduce the spacing between them here. So now this is how you can create this section. We have some other things here that we can add, but I will just quickly skip that because we're running out of time. And then right now we have this, so you can add this other properties here, and then you make this look exactly the same with this. And you can also play with the color of this, but I think I would prefer this to be this white here. Then I can scroll down and then we can grab this other section, this here. Let me just grab this text here, copy that, and then I will just come in somewhere at the bottom here. I will just create a text area and then paste this. So let's quickly make sure that this is 14, and I'll align the text to right, and for the spacing between, let's go 28 here. I think that looks too much, so I'll just reduce that to 24, and instead of this we're going to make that inter. So here we have inter, and then instead of semi-bold this can be regular, and we have this. So let's just compare the space in between, and then I think theirs just looks a little bit smaller. So let's go back to this, our resources item. We have our logo here. I'm going to convert this to components, and this should be our logo this time. So now coming back here, we can now add the logo by clicking on the assets folder. We can close page 1, go to resources and the icons. Here we can just drag this item here. Now I can lock this and then resize this with ease. So let's make that 80, and then I can still bring that down here. That's even looks big. Now that we have this, I'm going to select item 1 and 2, but you can double click to close this. So hold shift and then select this other item, shift A, to put them in an auto layout, and we can reduce the spacing between them. Now we just need to add our button here, and we already have buttons in page 1. So I'll just grab the first button here, and let's see the text there. I think it's sign up, so no need to add any other thing here. So now that we have this, we need to work on this too. Hold this, shift A to put that in an auto layout, and I'm going to center this, drag this to the end here. The spacing between them should be auto, so this is just going to push this item to the center. So I'm just going to grab one of this text here, that's this item, Ctrl D, and I'll just drag it somewhere here. So let's check if we have that pattern. Okay, we don't, so I'm just going to delete the text here. So that means I'm just interested in this line here. and then we need another one, Control D. I'll just drag the line here. So now we can highlight these 2 items or 3 items, Shift A to put them in an auto layout. So this is going to give us just this look that we're having here. So we can select this and then make sure that we have enough spacing in between them. So let's try 64 here. And if that looks okay, so by you can make sure you're centering this. We can now create the footer section here. We have product, features, cards. So I'm just going to create one and then I'll show you how to create the other items. So now we can come outside here and then add a text. So the first one is going to be pricing here. Let's make this regular. Then the size, I think 14, it's okay here. So let's change the color here to secondary because I think it's secondary. Let's look at that. So let's change the color here to secondary. So I'm going to select the 4 dots here and change this to secondary. Oh, we can just use the dark color here. Once we do this, press Shift A to put them in an auto layout. So this is going to be footer link. Once we have this footer link, let's just add the padding here. I'll just set that to 18 and we can convert this to a component here right now. Then we can add a variant by clicking the plus sign. So this is going to be the hover state. So once the user hover over this, we want to get this item here. So the next thing we need to do is to click on the prototype and then let's click on this and then drag this to point to this. And let's set that to while hovering. So now we can go back to our design here. So let's just add some stylings to this. So from dark, we can change this to primary and then we can add some styles to this. So click on this 4 dots and then that should be on the line here. So now when the user hover over this, it's the same link and then we're going to have this. Now select this our item here, double click to select the price, then let's use the multi-layer selection. So once you select the 2, we can now create a property called the title for this link item. So we can now access this footer link here. So you look for letter F here, FO, so we can just grab this and then drop this here. So please, that is a mega link. We're looking for footer link. This is the footer link here. So now I'll drag this and drop this here. So if we switch to the prototype mode here and I scroll down where we have this, if I hover over this, you see automatically we have that changes to purple with an underline. So I'm just going to set this here and then we can duplicate this down here. Just make sure they are touching each other like this. Just keep duplicating like this so that we can just create something like this. View demo, change lock. So once you select this, we can just have the view demo here. Then we can have change lock here. So I'm going to fast forward the video and then add all the links item. So now that I have this all done, so we can just select these items here and then Shift A to put them in an auto layout and make sure there's no spacing between them. Shift A, the same thing here. Shift A and the same thing here. Shift A. Shift A and then make sure there's no spacing between them here. So now I will just select each of this item here and then Shift A to also put them in an auto layout. Drag this to this point here and then so that it aligns properly with this other one, and then the spacing between them should be auto. So once you've done this, now you can decide to add this other section here. Let me just grab the text here, Control C. I'll just grab this and then add a text here, Command V. So we have this, and then we can also add the social media icons. So if you want to add the star sign there, I think we have something like that in here in our components. So I'm just going to page 1 and then let's look for the star here. So we can drag this and then drop this here. But you know, this was animated, so we can just change that to primary so that it suits into that. Hold this and then Shift A. Then we can add our socials as well. So that means we have to close this, go to resources. We should have our LinkedIn item here. Then we should have X, that's Twitter X. We can have this here as well. So let's just hold this, Shift A, put them in an auto layout, drag them somewhere here. And you can also grab this Instagram and then add that. So if we want to add the / between them, you can do that as well. But for now, we're running out of time. Shift A, I'm going to just add this and then make sure that this is aligned with these other ones here. And the same thing with this, it's aligned here with these other ones here. So let's make the spacing between them auto. So let's go back here and then select this and reduce the spacing between this. So I'll just set this to 42. We have this, and then I'm going to push this up a little. So this is the item. We can adjust that to fit into this. So please, if you're new to my channel and you like to see long form tutorials video like this that explain every concept in details, please kindly hit the subscribe button. So now that we have this our design with the footer section, which is completed, we need to go back to our resources icons here, and I want to copy this here. So now we want to create some slice animation here. I'll drop this. So now we want to create a frame, which is going to be for our mega menu. So click this and then let's try to fill this here. So I'll just fill that with white, and then we can add a stroke to this. And then the color of the stroke is going to be our secondary. Then let's reduce this to 12. That's the corner radius. Now that we have this, I think I want to set the width of this to, let's see, 500. And then the height, we can set that to 300. Now let's see how this is going to look. Here we can just add 560 here. Just make it look a little bit bigger. So after that, I can just drag this outside here. And I'm going to select something here, one of our design. Here, let me scroll down. I'm going to select one of this. So once I select this, just an item, Ctrl D to duplicate it, and I'm going to take that out of this section here. So now let's quickly drag this. So I'm going to zoom out, then drag this somewhere here. Now that we have this, we need to align this here somewhere inside this frame here, so that it's going to look exactly like this. I'm going to select this, and then this is going to be, let's say, feedback, and then the text here, I think it's less compared to what we are having, so I'm just going to reduce those things here like this. So now that we have this, we don't want to recreate this component, so I'll just come in here where I have the custom, press this, and then press enter here. So I'm just going to remove the space. We just need something like this. So Ctrl D to duplicate this, and then Ctrl D again to duplicate this. Let me press that, Ctrl D to duplicate this. So we have item 1, 2, and 3, and I think we might have to increase the height of this again here, and probably the width. So we can now go back to our resources item here. Let's go to our items here. Okay, we now have this. So let's see the size of this. This is 42. I'm going to select this items here, lock that, and let's make that 42 here. So let's convert each of this to a component. I'll convert this to a component, and I'll do the same thing for this. So we just have image 34, 33, and then 32. Let's go back to this section here. I'm going to select this, and let's go to image 32. I'll do the same thing here, image 33 here, and then image 34. Just select that here, 34. So we have all these items here. So if we select this, I'm just going to change this to product roadmap like this, and then we can select this here and then change that to product changelog, like this. So here I'm just going to add the feedback bots here. So I think this is missing the S here, so we have this. So now we can select these 3 items, Shift A, to put them in an auto layout, but we can try to adjust this here so that we can have enough space to create our rectangle. Now let's add the spacing between these items here. So let's go 24 and see, and then I'll drag this here, and we can go 32. So we still have enough space for that. So now that we have this, we can now create this here. So now we can just use a rectangle, drag this here, and then we can drop this somewhere here. So I'll just make this bigger than this. So the border radius here, or the corner radius, should be 8. So I'm going to change this color to this here. So let's just use the gradient here. I'm going to convert that to the gradient. And for the bottom color, I'm going to use white here. So we have other types of gradient that we can use to achieve this, but because we are running out of time, we're just quickly going to run this. So here, I'm just going to change this to all features here. Then we're going to make that bold. Let's use the semi-bold so that we can increase the size of this. All features. So I will just grab any of this text here, copy, and then I will select this and then drag this here, and I'll paste this. So let's change the properties of this. Here I'll just, for the customer, please, we want this to be on the same line with this. You know, we broke that earlier. So now that we have this, select these 2 items, Shift 8, put them in an auto layout. So we can just drag them somewhere here like this. So we just have something that we can use for the prototype. So if we select these 2 items, just Command G to group them here. And then these are the 2 items, Shift 8, put them in an auto layout. So we can have this item like this. And this looks clean. So we can rename this to just menu, mega menu. Now that we have this section done, I think the next thing is to drag this mega menu and then drop it somewhere here. So Control X, I want to cut this and then select this and paste this here. I don't want it to be inside any of the frames that we're having here. So let's just work on the border here. That's the stroke. So I'm going to select this and then detach this here. Now we can come in here and then try to look for a more better option for the border around that. So let's increase this to 2 pixels, and I think we're good for now with this. So here we want, when the user hover over this, we get this design here, and when the user leaves this section, we just want to close this. So what we're going to do is we can just drag this and then drop this outside. So now once we have this here, I'm going to double click to select this item here, and then let's switch to prototype and then drag this item and point to this. So this time now is going to be mouse enter. When the mouse enter this, then we want this to come up. But this time, instead of navigate to, we're going to open an overlay. So once we open the overlay here, we are going to do some settings. When we have the center here, I will change that to manual. So here we can just drag this to adjust this to sit in where we want this to appear. Right now, I'm just going to click on the presentation layer here, and let's see what we are having here. So I'll hover over this, you see it pops up. So now if the user leaves this particular section, we just want that to disappear. To fix that, I'm going to come back in here, and then for this other section, I'm going to select this. Since we're in the prototype mode, when you drag this button here, this dot, you're going to get this close sign here. So now we drag it till you're selecting this minus. This is going to be close overlay. So now it's going to be when the mouse leaves. So now here I have mouse leave here. This should just disappear. So we can go back in here and then try to do this. Mouse enter. When we are leaving, it's going to close the overlay. I'll try that again. Mouse leave. It closed the overlay. So now there are some movements you can make, and then this is going to delay the closing of this. Let's say I try to move this way, then this way. You see, it's just going to not close this till I come in here and I try to lift this. So these are some behaviors that you might notice. Okay, so now that we have this section working properly here, let's just add a bonus for watching this. Now I'm going to click back on designs. Let's select this item here. That's the whole of this frame. I'm going to drag this outside here. Now you can keep an extra of this, but we can just use this. Now let's convert this to a component here. So I'm going to click on this, and then I'm going to create a variant for this. So we have this too. Go back to the layer section because I just want to show us everything here. So when we select this, this is wrapped in an auto layout. So we're going to destroy that auto layout. So I'm going to select inside here again, and I think this text here are also inside an auto layout. If I do this, you see we have them in an auto layout. So we're going to destroy that as well. So what you're going to do for me here is double click on this item, and we're going to push that to the top. But before we do that, please let's select the main frame here that is containing these items here. So we have this option, clip to content. Make sure you're clicking this here. So once you do that, let's select the first text here. Now hold shift and press the up button on your keyboard. This should just disappear completely. Now we're going to select this again, hold shift. Now we're pushing this to the left hand side, and then this should also disappear completely here. Now I'm going to do the same for this, hold this, and then we're going to push this here, and this should disappear completely here. So now we have this empty screen. So let's select this first item here, go back to prototype. What we want to do here is, I want to drag this and point to this item here. This is going to be when the mouse enters this screen, we want to move to the second section. So now here we want this to be smart animate, and then we can set that to slow, or you can still use the normal ease in and out. So I'll set that to slow. So here I want to select this other section here again. So we are looking for the dots here. Let me just zoom in. We are going to drag this to the first item here. So this is going to be when the mouse leaves this section here. So mouse leave, we're going to have this here, and it's going to be slow. The same thing here, the first one, let me just zoom in. So we have two actions here, one here when the mouse enter, and then the second one when the mouse leave. So once we have this component hero, we can now go to assets here. Then I'm going to scroll down and then look for that hero section in page 1. So we have hero, drag this and then drop it here. So let's switch back to design so that we don't get some distractions here. So I'm just going to try my best to align this here. We should give enough space. So now select this item here. Let's open this in the prototype mode. So notice when I hover over this, we just get that animation. If I come back, we get this. So now let's try to open this on the web browser. So I'm going to click this item here and then copy this link. I'll go back to my web browser here, and then I'm going to paste this here. So we want this to open in a full mode. So right now we need to perform one settings, because this is going to open this inside the mockup. That's this here, but we don't want that. Let's go back to Figma, and then let's go back to our design here. Click back on prototype. So here, show prototype settings. For this here, we just want this to be none. So I'm going to scroll to the top and set that to none. And then we can go back to the browser here. Now select this item here, and we can just fit this here. We can fit the weight. So you see when I hover over this here, we get this. So if the user scroll and the moment you enter this, we get this nice animation. Please, if you like tutorials like this, please kindly show your support for this channel by subscribing, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.